What's up, squishies? How's it going? How's it hanging? What are we doing?
We'll
do Undead Unluck again next week. Not all the book clubs are going to be weekly. We want to still talk about One Piece.
I don't know if you heard about One Piece. It's a little manga about a pirate.
It's about a pirate.
Just one. It's just about one pirate.
It's about a pirate who almost never steals or plunders.
Yes, he also does not sail around the world.
Hello, Dr. Jack.
Nope. In the One Piece comic manga I read, he mostly just sits on a beach and makes earrings.
I think you're reading the wrong. I think you actually read the wrong comic. We got 2 first-time chatters in a row. My second monitor is bad and fucked up your name. The Real Creep Slime, welcome. And also, Charworm. We are gonna read the new chapter first, then we're gonna get to our discussion. That sound good to everybody?
We're doing pretty good, Dr. Jack. Good to see you here. It is good to see everyone. Woo! Oh, hey, Katu Luminous is here. I never see Kaido.
Yeah, Kaito's been busy lately. Lies when she steals meat. He sometimes steals it, and he almost never steals.
Not in my manga. In my manga, there's no stealing.
I think your manga's broken. I think you got the wrong one in the you know.
Are you sure?
Manga mines.
I'm pretty sure I'm mining manga properly.
So we're gonna go back to just doing our live reads only with patrons, because this is to put on our regular streams. But I really want to do this when we're ending and starting an arc. It just feels fun to bring everybody in for when we're beginning.
We talked about it, and we decided that how could we get to Elbaf without doing it live with our people?
Absolutely. Leroy Zappelli, thank you for subscribing for 10 months. I feel like usually I recognize the name more when someone's been subbing that long. That's crazy. That is the first time I've ever taken in Leroy Zappelli.
Some people are so silent watchers.
They're sneaky subs. They're sneaky subscribers.
Sneaky silent watchers.
We've caught you now, Zappelli.
Yeah, no. Zappelli is a ninja.
Almost never. If you guys can mention 2 times Luffy steals, that's in fucking 25 years of publication. I think almost never is perfectly fine. I think I said very rarely.
Mostly he makes earrings and bracelets, if I'm going to be honest, and it's a beautiful thing.
Comic, if that's what you've been getting so far. Holy crap, I'm on the title page, I have never noticed how fucking huge Duke Dogstorm is.
Don't you dare go anywhere before we're ready to go.
Title page, but it has Duke Dogstorm next to Yamato, and Yamato's like 12 feet tall and looks tiny next to Duke Dogstorm.
Can I tell you a secret before we go into anything? I don't know who bought us the Berserker books.
Yeah, I can't remember. They sent me a message, but
I
can't remember
not
who it was.
knowing.
If you sent us the lovely hardcover Berserk books, please let us know, because we want to credit you. And
also, your dastardly schemes worked, because I'm pressing up how soon we read Berserker.
Can I just say that it's really ironic that someone named Joyful Noise is saying they're a silent watcher and listener, but their name is Noise?
That's amazing.
There's a bit of irony.
And a joyful noise too. Like that feels louder than a regular noise.
I always feel weird about switching to big face mode, but I probably should do big face mode for reading, right? So that my expressions and reactions aren't just like a tiny little guy in the corner.
Are you getting a bigger face?
I have a big face. Let me tell you something about this, right? That I don't like. One of my ring lights died. And now I don't look as nice because my lighting's uneven.
What are you gonna do?
I'm so ugly now without my double ring light. Whoa,
wait a minute, I'm not there. I want to
subbed for 12 months now. It's been an entire year.
Listen to me. I'm not there, and I want to make sure you're ugly. I don't want to.
Is there a new order of upcoming book clubs? No, we do as we want. We'll probably be doing at least 2 weeks in a row of Undead Unluck again. Maybe 2 or 3 weeks, then a week off to talk about something else. But after Undead Unluck, we're thinking we might do a couple really short manga before we do Berserk. But because we were sent the really nice hardcover books, Mama's feeling obligated to get to Berserk. We're also going to start a Witch Hat Atelier book club where Mama's going to have read it before me.
We need to make me a page. Don't give me all the, I don't want to have extra pages, blah, blah, blah.
Hype train. Thank you, Charworm. We're on our way. We're at a 93% hype train.
Drawk, if you don't pay attention to me when I'm talking, I'll have to kill you. And I brought you in, so it'll be upsetting for me.
We need to lower our sub goal again, because it's from where our standards were at the end of the series.
Listen, are we listening to me?
I'm listening. What's up? What's up, homie? What are you doing?
Oh my God, you're like a hyper potato. I need to have a channel that I can talk to people about the Witch Hat Atelier.
You want your own channel, or do you want the ability to do streams on the Drawk show?
No, I just want a space inside of Discord where we can hang.
I can do that. That I can make for you. Easy peasy.
A voicey space that's easy to find, not like some of the other shit, you know, which I'm like, where the hell is this? I don't want that shit. I want to be able to find it.
Charm, I'm excited for you to get to enjoy it. We will be there shortly. We just want to read the new chapter first because
you know what I'm really excited about it? Can I just say before we move on?
Yes.
I'm very excited about you not getting to read it, first of all.
It's pretty exciting for you. Oh, hype train achieved. We're on a level 2 hype train now, guys. We're moving up. We've moved up in the hype train world.
I'm excited about you being like a secondary listener.
You having primary knowledge.
Me having the primary knowledge.
I'm
hoping it's not just going to be cozy, that it's going to have some stuff to it that's going to be like, you know, dig-any. Is that a word? Are we going to use that as a word?
Dig-any?
Dig-any?
Dig-any. Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think? Do you like it as a word?
I think dig-any is, let me look up, I'm a subscriber to the Shakespearean model of language. Let me tell if I can, so if I can identify the meaning of a word, it is already a word. Yes, it is a word. Now let me evaluate its quality. Is it fun to say? Dig-any. Fun to say. Got a good cadence to it. Does it have a meaning that otherwise is inaccessible? Yeah, I don't know how else to describe dig-any. I think I like this word. I think this word's doing it. I think it's fit all 3 criteria. I know what it means, fun to say, and it fits a unique criteria. You're doing it.
Yes! Dig-any is here. Yep. I hope it's dig-any, and I'm looking forward to it, and I hope that in the end it feels like one of those things that I hate putting down. I'm looking forward to reading it with all the other kids.
By the way,
looking at some images.
Nobody quote me. That's not the Shakespearean model of linguistics. That's just the model that people talk about Shakespeare when they argue for that model.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it. You know why I'll take it? I came out on top in it, so I like it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's how that works. Oh my god! Kaido, you already made it. I'm sorry, I only like to call you Katu Luminous. You already made it?
Powerful.
Okay, well, there you go then.
Also hit a year of subbing. We have 2 people who hit a year of subbing today.
Did we know all of their names? Oh, the Blackberry
I knew legit
Witch.
Hawaiian for sure.
I love the name the Blackberry Witch because blackberries, in my opinion, are one of the few invasive species that I'm always really thrilled to see. They're my favorite invasive species.
Blackberries are a great invasive species around here. The Himalayan blackberry, doing it right. Big fan.
Yeah, like legitimately getting free food out in the world. Free food that makes you be like, ooh.
Someone cheered 100 bits to get in. We're cheering.
Oh. I didn't even know cheering was a thing. I don't do things. I have a lot of points. Can I do something with these points? What can I do?
Points aren't cheering. Points are for other stuff.
I don't know anything.
Cheering is bits. Nobody spend delete your art on this because I'm just goofing off while we're talking about the new chapter. Save your delete your art for when we reach the discussion.
Okay, I have one more thing to say. In case you weren't here last week and you left for Undead Unluck, first of all, dude, read it.
Read Undead Unluck, come on.
Wildly good.
Yeah.
And second of all, I can't believe the person who does the English version came on here for Fuko. She was so cool. She was so cool. And to have a person who is doing Fuko's voice in the English version, how is that possible?
It's so rad.
It was so wild, Red Dragon. You're not wrong. I was like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. We just have a person who's voicing the character we're talking about in the manga hanging out with us. Oh, hey, Lucky Lav!
The Lav is here.
You big old lavender breeze.
Okay, yeah, sure.
It was wicked sick.
Wicked sick is exactly how I describe it, honestly.
When I left, I told your dad, and he was like, how does that happen? And I was like, Red Potato put a post out saying that if anybody was interested in this manga and there's not much attention for it, they should come here. And they saw it.
I have learned something that Red Potato has kept secret from us, which is they are a fairly significant social figure in the Undead Unluck community, because I've twice now, just from researching Undead Unluck, talking about it, getting ready, I've been recommended, because Google sells you all your data, I've been recommended posts from the Undead Unluck subreddit, and I never look at the content, but I accidentally click on them sometimes because they look neat. I haven't been spoiled yet, don't worry. But
Hi, first.
I've seen twice now different tweets from Red Potato being shared in the community and people being like, I really like this guy's take. So Red Potato is kind of present in the community. The Undead
Red
community
Potato was like a
Red
secret
Potato.
Undead Unluck person, and he just didn't tell us, and then we chose it. Hello, Red Potato, you sneaky ninja.
Oh, 88% of the way to a level 3. We have 10 seconds. Can anyone do it? Can anyone sub and bump us up to a level 3? I'd train. 7,
I'm
6,
subbed.
5.
Oh
4,
no, how do I even get on the thing?
2. You're too slow. You sorry. Oh, old Bean, did that count? Oh, it didn't
Those
count in time.
bastards! Those
It didn't
bastards!
count in time. No. That's fair,
It
Thighbreakers.
is
You
what
don't
it
have to
is.
sub. I'm not blaming anyone. I'll thank those who do sub.
You tried, Bean. I want you to know you
Bean,
were
you tried.
robbed!
Bean was robbed. That should have counted.
Yeah, that was bullshit.
That was bullshit.
Every single time I sub, I usually sub monthly, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like, you were a subber, you subbed, and then it wants me to tell everyone. I don't usually. It's weird.
The next Undead Unluck video is up on Thursday, and I'm so excited for Autumn to go up because, like, although Spring ended up being a stream I enjoyed more, I think we did such a good job on Spring, but I'm really excited for the community to get to see Autumn. I think they're gonna like it.
Good luck, Lavender Breeze out of here. I loved Spring in the end, which is really wild because when we first did it, when we started Spring, we were like, it was pretty good.
Well, to be fair, for me, I rushed through the ending by accident, so I didn't give it weight, and you didn't read the ending.
No, I read all but one chapter. I stopped
it was the best chapter of the arc, right?
Well, you're not wrong, but I legitimately thought I had read what we were supposed to read in my defense.
I don't know why he has a Lego brick for a head instead of a normal Lego head. I just felt like it was funny. Don't question me.
What are you making, by the way?
I'm drawing a little Luffy in the corner. That's Luffy in the corner.
Are you making Lego Luffy?
Yeah, but he's got a Lego brick for a head because the kid who owns him lost the Lego head for Luffy.
Are we doing Lego everything for a reason? Is it because we're in Lego land now?
That's how the last chapter ended.
Yeah, well, okay. I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see if we're gonna Lego some more.
I think we're gonna Lego some more.
Okay.
We're gonna,
okay, are we ready?
That's nothing. Yeah, we're ready. Ready to read this chapter with
me? Did you see that?
Chapter?
They're using your spring art.
Well, Ray's Codex, you're going to feel cool about something. I want to do a stream soon. It'll be when I have time. I'm just going to do a random bonus stream where I feel like that art had so much potential that I'm just going to hang out with people, have a really casual stream, and upgrade that artwork to make it a little bit more refined, because I feel like I didn't have the time to make it as good as it could have been, but it had so much potential. I think so many parts of it came across so well that I really want to spend the time making it as good as it can be. So I'm going to spend a couple hours sometime next week just going through and doing what I can. You're thinking of starting a One Piece analysis channel. Any tips? My biggest tip is the tip I got from a bunch of people, which is to start. And then my second biggest tip is if you don't want to stream where you're kind of forced to be on your feet, record, watch yourself, feel if you spoke well, try to interrogate how you did, ask yourself honest questions, and then re-record over and over again until you like how you recorded. I tried to make an analysis channel way back in the day. I'm about to, this is slightly off topic. Oh, ads, hopefully you're a sub. Oh, you are a sub. I remember you subbed early. Get a good microphone? Yeah, I should have a better one. Mine's good. I should buy a great mic at this point.
Mine is fine, but it doesn't come out well with the two of us.
I think we should both buy some XML microphones so we have a good sound.
I don't think you're wrong. I think you're right.
I think we should both invest in XML.
I have a tip. Get your mom to go on with you.
That was a huge one. But when I first wanted to make a channel, I recorded myself a long time ago, and I ended up not making it for the most self-conscious reason, which is I didn't like how I looked and I wanted to lose weight before I started my channel. But I also wasn't liking how I was speaking, and I re-recorded over and over again until I found like a tone of presentation I liked, because speaking the way you want to is harder than you think. So I would recommend.
They already have a channel, so they know how to speak live.
Oh hell yeah, I missed that.
But it's not about One Piece. Oh my god. Okay, listen to me right now.
Pick something that you find interesting that you haven't seen someone talk about. Make that your first video.
Yeah. All right, are we ready to rock and roll now?
I think we're ready to rock and roll. Let's go, let's go, let's go!
Wait. We have to make our choices. Who's reading first, who's reading second? And are we reading double spreads?
Well, of course I'm reading the cover because you want the first good one. I'm not... Look, I played this game before. I've been on this dance. I've been on
No, you know what? You read the cover last time. That's kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
Let's take turns. I'll read the
So
cover this
nice of
time.
you. You're so kind. All right.
Yeah.
Go to Viz if you want to read along, everybody. On Viz Manga. It's free. If people are doing a poll. Wait, let's do the poll. It's a 1-minute poll. I'll let the people decide. They'll decide you probably, but I'll let them decide.
I'm going to decide you. Vote.
You and me are 2 of the 3 votes. Oh, it's starting to swing. It's because I said it, didn't you? Y'all contrarians, huh? A 1-minute poll. We can wait a minute. I gotta remember that when I'm in big face mode, I should look at the webcam more because people can tell. Hi! Eye contact. People love it. People love
it's eye contact. I'm my soul. My soul.
Yeah, you shrivel in the face of eye contact. Hey, my wife had a great suggestion for streams we could do, all right?
Oh, what is it?
What if we do streams that's just you telling some of your funny stories?
What do you mean, my funny stories?
Funeral.
Oh my god, I can never tell that story.
You have to! But also, if
No.
you tell childhood stories, we can have Kim on so we can plug his book.
Oh, that's true. I could never. People can't hear the
Think
funeral
about the
story
audience
that
Kim's
would.
book could have if people knew there was a book where a Mama Drawk inspired character was one of the main characters.
That's true. He is.
All right,
He
yeah,
has
Mama had
dedicated his
75%.
writing.
You get the first real page.
He has dedicated the writing of his book to me because
Yeah.
he says I am the audience he writes for.
So you are going to read the first real page. I think it's how we should interpret the poll. I'll read the cover. I could gin it and be like, well, I'll read. You have to read first. Take the cover, but you get the first real page.
All right. We're reading double pages when we read,
yes.
right? Okay.
Ogre Child Yamato's Golden Harvest Surrogate Pilgrimage Volume 15. The kidnappings weigh heavily on Dogstorm, Daimyo of Kuri. Wait, he's Daimyo of Kuri now. That's cool.
Listen to me when I speak to you. That was an excellent, even more awesome announcer voice.
I'm so good at narrator voice.
You nailed that
so
20 out of 10.
Thank you.
Okay.
Here
we go. There's a fire. Put it out with the spring water. What is that smell? It's from the forest. If it spreads to how do we say that?
Yggdrasil.
Yggdrasil. If it spreads to Yggdrasil, then the world tree, then our country is finished. We should report it to the sun god.
What the fuck?
Shit. What the farking shit?
Tell that guy, I guess.
Clearly, there is some funny business afoot. Oh, look at those bees.
Oh.
There's no more reason the stingmores would have fallen from the sky otherwise. What the shit is happening? From what those in the forest say, the rumbling earlier was the sound of the ear god collapsing.
Okay.
What is happening? The awesomeness. Impossible. What could possibly cause that Titanic rabbit to fall? Drawk, we're not in Kansas anymore.
No, this is distinctly not Kansas. You know what? I'll take all the narrator boxes because I think we all agree.
No,
on super good at it.
I want to up my narration skills. Bigstein Castle. It's still alive?
You forgot the ad.
What is with these horrible giant bees? Good morning, Nami. Where are we? I don't know. I thought we were riding in the giant ship.
Someone come and save me! Luffy, Zoro, Sanji. I'll even settle for Usopp. Am I going crazy? I don't remember changing. Where am I? Is this a dream? What castle is this? Hey, Nami! Oh, that's Usopp's voice. Rip. Ow. What's going on with the ground? It's all bumpy. Thunk. Look at that little guy!
What is that little guy?
Look at him! Oh my god, has Nami ever looked cuter?
Nami looks adorable!
She looks good.
Can we just take a pause here to just step into a tiny bit of TikTok?
I mean, we talked about last time how the introduction to this outfit had some great drawn breasts. They were really well drawn. Anatomy was flawless.
I don't feel like they're out of control. I just feel like this is a really good look.
He's at a good level. They're exaggerated, but it's not like cartoonish. I think Oda, you found a good balance on this one. That fucking facial expression on the shock at seeing the giant hedgehog is so cute. It's so well done.
It's adorable, and I love that little dude.
It's huge. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to startle you. Usopp, where are you? I'm down here.
What the shit is that? Oh my god, look at that! Save me! But you're supposed to save me! What is that monster? I'm in trouble over here too. What is this? Some kind of castle of monsters?
Why are all of her expressions drawn so cute? She looks so good.
Somebody said that his line art was really good in this, and they're not wrong. This is immaculate.
It's so solid.
Like, look at her hair, where her eyeballs are popping out when she's looking over the top. It's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous. And look at the perspective on Zeus. It's so well handled.
Yeah. Oh, this whole thing is done beautiful. Extend, Zeus! I can do that. Whoa! I'm gonna fall. Whatever. Just zap it. Whole face goes big. Eyeballs pop. Oh, you didn't kill it, did you? Because is it crying or is it eyeballs coming out? Ugh. Wow. Ah! Wow. What? This is wild. I want to laugh.
The perspective is great. The composition's great. The flow of the panels is solid. The art is kind of peakier.
And it's literally unpredictable. It's so good.
I have a bad feeling about this. Me too. Glare. Have you figured it out so far, Usopp? It's the same thing as you, right? I woke up and I was here. I remember we were getting drunk in the giant ship, and that's right, that alcohol. Didn't you say it would make us hallucinate? This spirit is known as the Green Fairy. It's a dead end. We're so high up. You mentioned hallucinations, Nami. Maybe that means this cat's just a vision and isn't really there. Spin. Hallucinations can't hurt me. Oh no! Usopp! Oh my god.
Usopp!
These people are right. The line art is so good this chapter. Her face, her expressions are all so good. Oh my god, and this art too!
Let me read. Huff, huff, huff. Oh, why is it a lion now? Oh, we're done for. Usopp, get up. Open your eyes. We're about to die. Nami, can I make a side note here as a person on the planet? If you're about to die and you can't get around it, you might as well die eyes closed when you're being eaten. I mean, if you can meet your death with your eyes open normally, sure. But if you're about to be eaten, maybe eyes closed. Oh, eek. Don't use me as a shield. Oh, Nami.
The Sanji noises, just so you know. I know you're not an anime person, so you don't know Sanji noises, but that was Sanji noises.
Did you just do Sanji noises to dance him in?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's just a little snapping with it, since it's a very French sounding.
I'm here for it.
Time of making my beloved cry. Ifrit, jambe, épaulier. Gear forth, French. Gum gum, elephant, 3-sword style. Black rope, dragon, wow. Twister, whip, strike. Yeah. What? Yeah, those are the noises. We get the sound effects. Don't worry. That's pretty rad. This is all good. Love this. Love. Wait.
Page.
Gear 4 doing a big kick is new, though. Look at the big elephant kick with the Gear 4. That's a new move.
I was trying to see the Luffy Luferson, and I can't. Is that him under that hat there? Yes.
Yeah, that's him. Big old fist by the tongue.
Yeah.
And now it turns back to a cat. And he says Gear 4. No. Look at the little flame pattern on his shoulders. I think he is Gear 4. He just did a big kick.
Gear 4 and kick, which I've never seen. And there's a flame pattern on his foot over there going in.
Flame pattern on his foot. You flame pattern on his shoulder. It's a new Gear 4.
I'm not going to lie. Luffy in his little Viking stuff, he's adorable.
Right? Oh, you think it's an Oda error and he meant third? There is a little, it could be just texturing instead of flame pattern. Okay, we move next page.
Me.
Oh, the fits.
I'm going to do this as if I'm doing it for the blind. Okay, you ready? Okay.
We should describe the scene more. That's true, actually. We should be doing that
that's
more.
Why I've decided to do it like I'm doing it for the blind.
I tell you to do it all the time, and then every time I read, I forget.
Yes, you really do. Okay, my turn. Zoro looks off into the sky, one eye closed with a scar across it, wearing goggles of awesomeness. The heck? It turned into a cat? Huh. I'll pass on this one. That's what Luffy says because he was going to eat it, but he won't. That roast rabbit earlier was tasty enough already. Nami, you had me so worried, says Sanji, kind of in a knight suit crossed with a Viking. Jumping towards her. I was so scared, Sanji, and poor Usopp is dead.
The voice you just did for Usopp, Discord decided was not human speech, by the way, so that
Okay,
did
let's
not
do it
come
again.
through.
Alive! Alive! And I'm gonna remember that you used me as a shield. Not again. Zoro looks very with his arms crossed there. What's the name of the dude that I'm thinking of? That he looks like one of the worst generation.
He looks a bit Diaz Drake, you're right.
Diaz Drake. Zoro looks a little Diaz Drake here. Zoro with his arms crossed, staring out into the distance, looks a little Diaz Drake, finding the sea, and our ship comes first. We don't know how the rest of the crew is doing. And we got our main man Sanji pointing over. Speaking of food, what about that hive and all those bees you knocked out? That's a respectable food source. Honey's very nutritious. Why are you all so comfortable here? Screams Nami in tears. Where are we?
I saw some people saying that they didn't like Zoro's fit. I think everybody looks great. I love all of these outfits.
30 out of 30.
Like, so
50
good.
out of 4.
So good. Love all of them.
I don't even know whose I like most.
All their attacks are wrong. Oh, interesting. Apparently all their attacks are wrong. People think something's up.
Oh, well, if all their attacks are wrong, then going back through this, that's for sure a thing. Yeah, that's an intentionalness. You wouldn't just make their attacks wrong if it wasn't meant to be.
Correct, though, but he does say gear 4. You're right. 3-sword style. He uses 3 swords, and it is a black rope dragon twister, isn't it? That seems right.
I gotta tell you something.
There's a lot wrong people are saying.
I can't decide.
Zoro's prioritizing directions.
Ah, that is true.
Oh.
That is very interesting.
Okay.
Listen to my face. Yeah. I can't decide what I like best about this arc so far. Yeah. The outfits, fire. The line art, ridiculous, off the chain. The silliness quotient, I think this is 25 beats, beat you silly, and that's the amount you want. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here, but it's wild good.
I'm liking it. Can I want to, our good mod and crew sub submitted their crew text to be about this chapter. Do you want me to read that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Because they wanted to wait until after we'd read it. I just realized they sent it to me on my primary account. So I'm going to need to use my phone instead of my computer. Phone is out.
What a big moment. A secondary source of technology is coming into play.
I need to click to remove spoiler text. Okay. Oh boy. Ready? Confirmed incongruences. Someone. Okay. Wait. Today I'd like to talk to you about Absinthe and Lego. Let's start with a short list of strange things occurring during chapter 1127. List was provided by our fellow Discord member, Humming Worker. Thank you, Humming Worker. Confirmed incongruence. Shouted gear 4th when gear 3rd. Luffy switching from nothing to sword on back, axe on the black. Luffy changing boot, sword, axe strap. Usopp's helmet fell away. Next time Nami throws him to the side. And it's next to him. Nami's sword disappears and reappears through panels twice. The ending words in Dragon Twister and Apollier shot are flipped in the Japanese order. They should be in the bubble. Interesting. Nami's, so the attacks were wrong. They were just translated correctly as though they were fixing a mistake. I understand. Nami's R-band changes arm. Nami's belt buckle changes design. Debunked incongruences. Ifrit Jean looked like that previously. Zoro and Sanji techniques look congruent with previous attacks. Sanji eyebrow did the flipping, which it should do because he went into Diablo or Ifrit Jean, where he needs to go sicko mode. Maybe incongruences. Sanji impact frame did not show flames or Ifrit effect. Nami being too scared of just Big Cat, regardless all they've been through. Look, Nami would be scared of Big Cat regardless. It's very big.
No, it wasn't the Big Cat that scared her at first. It was that little dude.
It was the spiky hedgehog.
That was way smaller than things she's fought in the past.
Wado Itamanji flip, maybe. Luffy does not open eyes is all. Nami's tattoo not showing up. Interesting. On the topics you'd like to discuss. Absinthe. So last week, especially hyped for reading especially hyped while reading chapter 1126, apparently more so than many others, about the mention of Absinthe the Green Fairy. You should know that Absinthe was and still is a myth amongst the citizens of Switzerland, including many young people coming of age. There were rumors going around in vocation school I attended that Absinthe would introduce a trip you'd never forget. I think it was on my graduation trip when I was just 20 years old, when I had absinthe the first time in my life. I mean, just the percentage of liquor is about 75% alcohol. It was a night to remember, but not for everyone. Won't go into details. Hey, have you had absinthe? Real
Yes.
detour?
I had absinthe.
I despise the taste of moonshine, but I actually really like absinthe. I like that licoricey taste.
I have a problem because of grad camp where I may or may not have finished off a 40-pounder of Sambuca and found myself half in, half out of a lake when I was 18. That makes it a little bit harder for me, but I still enjoyed it, and it was a different type of drunk.
I have a friend who is... There's not a good way to sum him up. Weird. His family often gives him really expensive, fancy absinthe. So sometimes at social events, he'll give everyone a shot of fancy absinthe, and it's delicious.
Why does his family give him fancy absinthe?
It was hard to describe them. The boy grew up in a bubble. He didn't know any contemporary media from the time he was a teenager or child.
And yet his family gives him wormwood liquor as a drink?
Well, okay, proper modern absinthe isn't like wormwood that has the toxin in it.
Carry on.
Absinthe was said to be able to do a hallucinogenic trip, which was based on the addition of additional substances such as thujon, also called wormwood, which were mixed into liquor. What has been confirmed today by several studies, the fact that massive consumption and poor alcohol quality led to a ban on distribution in several countries. So please understand, when I read that Nami drank a whole jug of absinthe, everything afterwards should have been under the influence of the Green Fairy. You didn't trust a single page of what you read in 1127. Interesting. Very possible. The Danes and Lego. I'd like to state a few facts for the whole Danes and Lego topic. There's a historic link from the Vikings to Danes from 1,000 years ago. Looking forward to you reading Vinland Saga at some point in the future. We probably will, because it's recommended and I haven't read it. Another thing the Danes are known for is a company called Lego. What? Everybody knows Lego? That's very funny that I made my joke right before he said that. It's clear that Oda included the Lego bricks because of the historic link between the Vikings and the Danish company Lego. But Lego doesn't have the patents on the bricks anymore. What they have is the patent on the mechanics of the Lego figures. That is why there are so many different companies that have started to sell Lego-compatible bricks in the last 30 years or so. Ergo, Oda and Shueisha have nothing to fear in terms of trademark or patent infringement. By the way, has to be said importantly, it's a rule.
I agree. Yeah, wait. Only if you agree right now that anytime something deserves to have a little finesse, that we can call finesse on it.
Totally.
Okay, go.
By the way, self-locking building bricks were invented in London by Hilary Page for his own toy company called Kittycraft. What a worse name than Lego. The founder of Lego became aware of the bricks and copied them for their own use. Lego acknowledges the fact themselves. Hey, thanks, Lego, for not pulling an Elon Musk and suing so that you get to be considered the founder of something. Great that you're just like, yeah, we took it. Love that. So for those out there that played with Lego bricks when they were children, do you remember using the bricks to build something out of your own imagination, which is the embodiment of fantasy? I believe there's a connection or link between the Green Fairy and the fantasy world created with Lego bricks. But the giants are reacting, so something real is happening is the thing. It's just where the line is.
Yeah, but also, like, there's so many things around Lego, right? Because like, Lego is the idea that you can build your own world, you can restructure an entire world and build it up again. But it looks like the entire place is done in Lego. But Lego is also symbolic of putting things in the exact right place, on the other hand. Because, like, when you go to build a Lego thing, I don't know who would know this, maybe Dr. Jack, who's building a Lego castle right now. When you go to build a Lego thing and you're putting together many pieces, everything has to be in the exact right piece. So at one time, it's rebuild things, make them into your own way. And on the other hand, it's about having a structured society. So it's both of these things.
Okay. I think
so. It's like childhood fun and a nod to nostalgia and all that, and breaking all and restructuring a world. But at the same time, there's also control and a commentary on control and structure.
Do you think Prince Loki is involved? Because I think there's no way that Oda names a guy Loki and doesn't have him be up to some mischief.
Yes. There's all sorts of stuff in here. I'm so glad we read this out loud. Don't get me wrong, but you know me. I love to do a dig. I don't know if you've heard this. I like to do the diggins.
You love
and
digging.
and I can't do the diggins when I just like open it up and read here out of nowhere. I love that we have a tree here, like we had a tree in O'Hara, and then we have our
Well,
cool
do
whale
you
tree.
know the mythology of Yggdrasil, the world tree?
You trust me when I do. I want to see the giant squirrel come down at any moment.
Ratatasker! He was so cool in Smite.
Do you remember how many times I've told you to read the Iron Druid? Read the Iron Druid.
Ratatasker is such a baller.
There's just one problem with it in the Iron Druid. They never mind. You'll see.
I love that so many messenger gods are like a flying dude who's so fast, and the Norse messenger god is a squirrel with a job. I love them.
Oh, I love the world tree. But I also like the idea of all the world trees of life being connected in some way. That would make me happy.
All right. Are we ready to do a brief transition? And like, oh wait, we should do a goodbye so that people have an easier time editing this for the lightning round edit.
Lightning round edit. You know what I hate to hear?
What?
Me. I hate to hear me. When I come on and I'm looking at myself, I've gone back to this place where I hate hearing myself.
You know what's weird? I kind of did too. Like I was so normal about hearing my voice from streaming, and then the other day I was listening to myself record and I was like, ugh.
Yes. Oh my god, I'm glad you said it too. I was like, oh my god, do I sound like that? And I have to do a big presentation, and I have to do a big presentation in front of a few thousand people tomorrow. And tomorrow, which creeps its petty pace from day to day. I have to do it tomorrow, and I was like, this was not the time to fall out of love with hearing myself.
Okay. Let's do our brief goodbye for the people of YouTube. Hey YouTube, thanks for watching this live reaction. We're gonna do these sometimes when we feel like it's a big chapter, people tell us it is. Most of the time if we do live reacts, it'll be with patrons, and if you want to be part of those, please come join the Patreon. You know what else you get? All the pictures. People ask me, where do you get the high-res pictures? I want to use them for my wallpapers, or to... I'm not gonna... Hey, Twitch, you get to know what's being edited out here. Editors are going to edit this out. I was about to say to make a pirated Redbubble account, and I realized maybe I don't want to encourage the masses to take my art to make Redbubble accounts.
Jesus, no!
To make a phone background, or to show my friends, or make a meme out of. The editors took what I said before, and they spliced that part onto it. They're so good. They're so good at what they do, and you gotta love and respect them.
You gotta love and respect them.
So if you've been interested in grabbing the high-res artworks yourself, especially now that I'm entering an era where I have a little bit more time and I'm going to do some upgrade streams where I refine those to make some professional grade stuff, put my all, get some elbow grease in the stream artworks, come and join. We'll be doing reactions. We're watching movies every month, but we're about to run out, so we're going to need a new thing to be doing on our Patreon streams. But it's an absolute blast. And the Patreon chat is the only chat that I can actually keep up with in our Discord.
Drawk, is this your first time doing any of this kind of stuff?
Don't act like you are the hinged one.
Is this your first time doing a little promo moment?
It might be my first time doing the plug. You really wanted to do the plug when we started doing plugs.
You're all grown up. Carry on.
Anyways, everybody, until next time.
Squish on, squishies.
It's been lovely talking to you. Bye! But not you, stream. Twitch, you stay here. Don't run away. Don't run away. We're talking about politics now. It was just
I didn't even know. I'm gonna give you full grades on that one.
Look, I think there's room for improvement, but I think I made it fun, and that, you know what?
No, I'm gonna give you full grades on that one. That was a good one.
If this is a self-assessment where you gave me a grade and I gave me a grade and I got a grade that was the median, I wouldn't get full grades because I give myself like a B plus. But for my first time, I think I did okay. I think I did okay for a plug.
You know what? You gotta be able to do a little good self plug every once in a while, and I feel like you really nailed that one.
Well, thank you. All right, everybody. Oh, this is a big one. The talk about politics is very interesting, right? This is the part where we claim One Piece is political.
Oh my god, are we having a conversation for the first time ever claiming that One Piece is political?
This is the first time we've ever done that.
I don't know. This is a dangerous zone to go in. We usually try to stay out of that zone.
We do. It's so common that we stay out of that zone. You know?
I can count the total number of times on one finger that we've ever mentioned politics.
We've never before. So, Welcome, people of YouTube. This is Mom Piece, where we do book clubs as mother and son. Well, Manga, I guess, is the series, but do you want to introduce yourself for anyone who might have clicked on this video who doesn't know us?
Yeah, like, dude, I'm a really nice person. People should get to know me.
They should. That's true.
I'm a self-proclaimed really nice person. My name is Mama.
Entire introduction?
You know what? I'll give a name. Here we go. Oh, there's ads. Oh, I can't tell anybody.
Whoa,
we were
ads.
so close.
I mean, this is for YouTube though, so you can say it through the ads. The people here know you're saying it for YouTube.
What if no one knows who I am and they're just here and they're wandering around trying to figure out why they're listening?
Just for YouTube, it's fine. They know they're here.
What if any of these squishies aren't squishing?
They're squishing, I'm pretty sure. I've checked in with them before. They seem like they want to be squishing.
Can I tell you a secret before we do that?
What's that?
Have you ever seen those incense things where you put a incense with a hole in it and then it waterfalls smoke down?
What? Yeah, yes, I know what you're talking about. I was so lost for a second and then I fucking flashback remembered.
Really? Okay, I'm doing that right now. I got a whole ass waterfall of smoke going into a couple of kois in a koi pond, and oh goddamn, everyone, okay. I just want you to know, it's so good.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
That's all. Okay, now I'll introduce myself. Are you ready? Yeah, now's the time. Hello, everybody. I'm a really nice person, self-proclaimed. You should get to know me like this. My name is Mama Drawk. I'm here in the Mom Piece where we do manga and we talk about manga. I was a very first time manga reader, and Drawk dragged me in. It didn't take him very long. He'd been asking me to read One Piece for about, we think, 15 years. And finally I relented. I'm unrelenting, but in this case I relented. And this is what we came up with. And we were ever so glad that we decided to do it this way. It turned out to be right time, right place. And we've been working for almost a year. We finished, we're caught up, and we've started doing a few others, like Undead, Unluck. We'd love to see you there. It's wild. It's not what I thought it was going to be. And I was so grateful for it.
Undead, Unluck is so cool.
Here you go. Today we're going to have a conversation about whether or not One Piece is political. If you've ever landed on any of our stuff before, you'll know that we never talk about politics. We really keep politics out of everything that we do. We never have anyone talking about how they wish we wouldn't talk about politics. We're pretty unpolitical. Some might even say anti-political. I wouldn't go quite that far, but pretty unpolitical.
To cut through the sarcasm, we've had a lot of comments about why do you guys always talk about politics? Why don't you talk about the story? And I think genuinely for us, the reason is that I like to think that we're both very media literate people, and a lot of the stuff that's surface level and accessible is stuff you enjoy in the reading. And for us, because this is formed as a book club, in the afterwards, we like to dive in and get into more speculative territory, more deep analysis, getting really deep under the skin and trying to find themes and concepts. And we've often resounded back on people who are like, don't talk about politics by saying One Piece is political, or people being like, One Piece isn't political by saying, how do you think that? And I just had this realization. We want to do a series where we talk about the politics in One Piece, but I think we need to start that off by really actually taking on, is One Piece political? How do you know if media is political? And I want to start by saying something very clear, which is the argument you'll get from a lot of people immediately is all art is political. Now, I will say, philosophically, I agree with this point. I think because politics is about your belief of how humans should be managed, and stories are about a character accomplishing something or not and why, right? That's what stories are. I don't think you can write a story that doesn't reflect your political beliefs to an extent. However, that's not what we're talking about when we say One Piece is political, right?
No, it's not what I'm talking about. No.
Like, One Piece is very deliberately and intrinsically political. It's not by the happenstance of representing its author's belief. This is a series that I believe is very deeply political. Like, it is made intentionally to say something about the world. And I don't think just in a philosophical way. I don't think in just a musing about ideas way. I think this is a series with a political agenda. Now, there's two little caveats I want to start before we get to it. Is that all good with you?
I have a caveat too, so caveat off.
Yeah. My first caveat is hey, if you are right-leaning or centrist, I do believe One Piece is fairly left-leaning, and because people bring in left-leaning politics, I think a lot of the right-leaning people really don't like hearing that One Piece is political. But try to remember, you can deeply appreciate something and still disagree with it. You can love the storytelling and something and disagree with it. I bring this up a lot because they're my two go-to examples, but I believe that the Dark Knight Returns comics and 300 are very right-wing, politically active pieces of media. I'm on the left. I still love them as works of art. I think they're beautiful fiction. I think they're well told, and it's worth understanding more deeply, even if it ends up being something you disagree with. Yeah, you go for it.
I have a question. Hey, Stazzy boy, thank you.
Another
and
year.
That's not my question. That's a comment.
Yeah.
My question is, what about, I don't know, 40K?
Warhammer 40K. I love Warhammer 40K. And while there are very left-wing authors within it, there's a lot of very right-wing authors and right-wing policies, politics. There's political stories that I would say seem basically fascist in their politics that I still really love in 40K. I can engage with it and really, really love it, even though I politically disagree with it. So I encourage you to be open-minded about our conversation if you are against left-wing politics, because you can still love something you disagree with. It's fully possible. Next little caveat, because Mama Drawk and I are going to agree with each other a lot, I don't think it's going to be a good conversation of getting to how do you decide if something's political, is it political, if we're just talking about agreement. So every once in a while, we're going to step into a devil's advocate position where we take each other on. This isn't going to be an argument, and I'll try to make it clear when that's happening. But I want to push each other's ideas and actively try to disprove ourselves, because I think that's how we're going to have a more convincing conversation about this, is if we actually...
That's not really why. Drawk wants to make me cry.
That's exactly why, actually. It's all a lie. I just want to make her cry on camera. All right, you go.
And I just want to say a caveat that I'm glad that we're doing this, because I think that at one time we were sold a bill of lies that everyone just started to come up with and agree upon. The idea that we don't talk about politics or religion around people if we want to be in polite society. That those are two things that hold us so differently, that our political beliefs and our religious or non-religious beliefs are so separating that instead of talking about them, we avoid them, or we avoid them at all costs in order to always get along when we're with people who have opposing ideas to us, which I think, in my opinion, is a pile of steaming bullshit. Because what it does instead is it doesn't allow people to hear from people who have very different ideas than them politically and religiously. And it doesn't allow people to spark debate amongst each other or learn to have conversations where you're not in agreement, but you're not fighting. All you're doing is seeking deeper information. And it means now that we have a way more divided society because we haven't learned to have these conversations. All we do is sit across from other people now and disagree with them loudly and angrily, rather than actually seeking more information or learning why people might feel a certain way. So I can think about some of my friends who are kind of a lot more on the right-leaning side, and some of their worries about the future and some of the things that they think are missing. And the only reason I know that is because we've had adult conversations where we actually do talk about politics with each other. And so I think the biggest mistake we can make too is that people feel like politics has become like math. Everyone thinks that it's really, really at an arm's length and only super academic people engage in politics. And it's turning it from being something that it should be, which is for every person, thus the word democracy, where the society leads the way of what they're looking for. And how can you lead the way for what you're looking for if you have never, ever, ever learned about different forms of politics? And so politics should be at a very basic level. Politics should be for everyone, and everyone should care, because politics ultimately decide the way you live in your life and how your country, your province or your state and your town are run. So you should care. And I would argue that having political conversations should become commonplace. And that's my caveat.
I think that's incredibly fair. I also want to say that a big part of what we love doing is helping people, like helping flex our own and work out our own, but also helping other people understand the benefits of media literacy, how by being better at deeply examining and interrogating your media, you can get more out of it. And I think that's part of why I think today's conversation is going to be so fun, because I want to get into how do you analyze if something's political. And the issue is, and this is a jumping off point of the conversation, the issue is at a certain point, it really feels like a vibe check. It really feels like you're just looking at it for vibes. Vibe check. Naruto, not intentionally political. All art is political, so it is, but it doesn't feel like that's the goal of Naruto. My Hero kind of wants to be, but drops the ball and it's not well thought out. That's my vibe check. And I think I can get more into why that's my vibe check with a more detailed conversation like this. But at a certain point, when you practice media literacy a lot, the issue is you reflexively don't have a good way to explain what you're doing. So I really want to get into what our vibe checks are based off of, what information this is based off of.
I really feel that Loney has been in my class, in my philosophy class. The thing I always tell kids is a measure of intelligence is how gently you can hold your ideas in your hand and be willing to be persuaded with the right evidence.
Yeah.
And so to hear them say that people grab onto their politics too hard, that's a big yes on my side.
Absolutely. Actually, you know what? One last tiny caveat. I don't fully agree with what I believe the politics of One Piece are. Obviously, it leans closer to me than a lot of things. I love One Piece. I'm a leftist, and I believe it's leftist propaganda, effectively. And we'll get into why I think that in a later video. Today, we're just doing Is It Political? But if you're feeling like I'm just projecting my own beliefs, I want you to know there are places that I disagree with One Piece's politics when we get there. And I'm excited to show that off, because disagreeing with media means you're actually taking it in and thinking about it. All right, we good? Do we have all our intro? It's a long intro, but it's a big topic.
Dun, 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 dun. We're doing an intro. Now it's done. The end. Yep.
Dude, that song kicked ass.
Thank you so much.
I treated the boy. Don't worry, the boy got treated. If you missed it, you missed it. I'm treating the boy silently to not interrupt the flow. All right.
That was nice of you.
How do we do it? Where do we start? How do you think you would argue that media is political intentionally?
Media is political, or One Piece is political intentionally?
Yeah, I think
one.
Let's say media for start, and then we will talk about how that applies to One Piece.
So you're just asking, how would I create a thing that determines whether or not something is political?
I feel like here's a wild take, right? I feel like all of those. Here's the 15 things that make a psychopath. If you check 8 boxes, you're a psychopath. If you are these 14 boxes, 9 out of 14, you're a fascist state. All of that shit, I think, is kind of the wrong way to look at it. I think that those are useful tools because things like political alignment and mental illness and dysfunction all exist on a continuum. They're not black and white. It's not yes or no. And the reason those tools are good is because it helps you kind of assess where something is on a spectrum. But I think if you think of it as, if you do X and Y, you are A. I ran out of letters. Z. You are Z would have worked.
You needed a whole other alphabet.
I needed you are alpha, whatever. I think that's just the wrong way to look at things. So I think we're more just going to talk about. Actually, here's a great place to start, in my opinion. One of the biggest problems you'll face if you look at certain things is, why does everyone call everything a fascist and why can't we agree? Well, because in the modern day, fascism has become associated with evil, and because of that, fascists lie. If someone's a fascist, they won't tell you they are. I think that we as a people have gotten really bad at trusting our reading of a situation. There's an expectation a lot of people have that everything is going to be blatantly stated to you. And if it's not directly stated, if One Piece never says, I am political media, you kind of don't buy it. In the way that if no one ever says, I'm a fascist, people are like, well, he didn't say he is. I think you need a certain level of reading what isn't said directly. Our follower goal is met? Hell yeah. Oh my God. Yes. The saying that choosing a Russian actress counts as supporting terrorism is insane, because that is blaming an ethnicity for the actions of a government. That's insane. We'll not get into that. We probably will get into that on a later stream, but for today, for assessing it, I think we need to get not at your expectation for what's political media can't be media that tells you it has a political message intentionally. Because I think good propaganda, something that wants to sell its political message well, isn't going to say so.
Okay, well, I can tell you that when we were recently doing a philosophical argument and we were trying to come up for, we were having a very serious debate.
You in your class, you mean for we?
In my classroom. And the debate was, is an orange dessert? And when we were doing this, we had to create the criteria first for what is a dessert. And the kids noticed, and I knew right away, but you kind of have to leave it because you have to let people find things out on their own. We defined what a dessert is first. But in the definition of dessert, if you decided to eat your loved one's ashes after dinner as a small amount less than the food that you had eaten for dinner, it would count as a dessert. And so I think that people have the tendency in a lot of things to do that. So if you're having the question of is One Piece, it is, but it's also, ashes. So it's a little less meaty. So if you're doing something like with One Piece and other pieces of writing, and you're asking, are they political, and you're creating like loose agendas for them, anything can fit in as politics. And I think that would be some people's argument. Yes. They would say like, no, this is just a thing that is actually just a manga that also happens to have some political things in it every once in a while because they can't help it because they're people on the planet, and when he's writing, there will be things in it that are political.
Yeah,
if you create a loose thing.
We're gonna get into
our argument is that One Piece is built politically intentionally.
Yes, it is built from the ground up, because you get into the semantic loops, and the issue really becomes, well, how do you define it? Look, how do we define it? It was intention. It was built to be.
Yeah.
You will not manage to create a good definition for a sandwich. You just won't. Try building a sandwich definition that doesn't include a meatball sub. That includes a meatball sub, but doesn't include a hot dog. It's really difficult, and you'll find it actually will add in loopholes you don't want. What is a sandwich? Well, if someone asks you for a sandwich and you give it to them and they wouldn't be mad at you or think that you're lying or tricking them, that's a sandwich. You gotta go based off of intention and how we use words.
You also have to be careful there because, tomatoes are fruit, but you don't put them in fruit salad. So,
well, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
So that's exactly why we're talking about, if you say to somebody, this is how it is built in, they need to be able to agree with it. But there's also people who are going to disagree and be like, no, I totally put tomatoes in my fruit salad. I'm a freak.
I mean, the freak exception will exist.
You can put an orange into a salad. Thank you. But an orange.
I think you found a great criteria, trying to prove that from the ground up, One Piece is built politically and with political messaging involved.
And I would argue that it is intentionally political, and so would you. But we need to be able to call each other on it. Yes. So originally, you had a thought that One Piece felt very Marxist to you.
I feel like One Piece is Marxist in its analysis. I think it uses Marxist tools of analysis, but hey everybody, the imaginary right-winger I was talking to at the beginning of the video, you hear that and you want to click leave video, right? What you should know is that Marxist analysis and Marxist philosophy are incredibly different. They are so different you wouldn't believe, because the most conservative thinkers in economics and politics still use Marxist analysis. Basically, everyone in academic fields related to philosophy, sociology, economy agrees that Marxist frameworks of analysis are really effective and is studied and versed in them. Very few people argue Marx wasn't skilled as an analyst. A lot of people think that his prescriptions are bad, the choices you should make for society are bad. Very, very, very few people think that Marx was a bad thinker when it came to analyzing the world. So when I say it acts Marxist in its analysis, that's not a huge statement. And I also would like it does.
I would like to get on into a less wordy, jargony thing. But
get into some more parlance of the common
a little
folk.
Meat, a little potatoes. But I want to say, not even common folk, just meat and potatoes, things that aren't boring. But I want to say that somebody said here that left and right aren't really a thing, and that it used to be a sliding scale, and you could be very right in some things and very left in one thing. We have made ourselves be a lot more polarized. But I'm just going to say, because I think also that people don't always understand what Marxism is.
Yeah.
And so I don't
think we can get into educating people about proper Marxism. If you can sum it up fast, I'll
I have a quick thing that says, what is Marxism? Okay, I'm going to read it to you. Social, political, economic theory developed by Karl Marx, just in case you couldn't figure out where the word Marx came from, and Friedrich Engels. So it critiques the structure of capitalist society, emphasizing the conflict between a working class, that's who you call the proletariats, and that's most of us, and the owning class, the bourgeoisie. It argues that capitalism inherently leads to a class struggle.
Yes.
And that's what we kind of see inside of our life. People who own people who do, and own the places that people work and places that people work.
Now, what's interesting is One Piece is, while capitalism, it seems to exist, there are businesses and the like, there's also a dominating force of hegemony, the world government, a group that's in charge of like literally everything, and there is a born class of elites that you could see as a reference to bourgeoisie, but you could also just see them as a reference to monarchies, to the born wealthy. Everybody talking about whether it's a gradient or a circle. I will say extreme right and extreme left wing groups tend to be similarly dangerous. They are not the same. One of the big issues, and the reason people think they're the same, this will be edited out. This isn't for the YouTube video. This is just for chat. One of the big reasons they seem to be the same is it is very, very common for fascists to call themselves socialists and communists. It's happening right now in China. It happened in Soviet Russia. The Nazi Party was called the National Socialists. It is an incredibly common thing for extremely far-right groups to adopt a few left-wing policies and call themselves the far left. Now, do extremist leftists do bad? I'm not saying they don't. I am just saying the reason it feels like more of a circle than I believe it is because of the frequency of far-right groups adopting the populist messages of the far left. It is very common. It happens constantly in history. And I think the fact that people ignore it makes us less politically literate and makes us less able to recognize when it's happening on our modern world.
Okay, I want to get into fun stuff. Ready?
Mm-hmm. Let's get to
get ready
fun stuff.
Get ready to argue with me.
Let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, so I think that One Piece is political from the ground up. I think that some people see it as this thing where it's like about freedom and adventure, and so they would see some of the stuff that we're talking about as just being like, oh, well, that's talking about freedom and adventure. That's not talking about political undertones, and
yes,
that's talking about camaraderie and blah, 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 which I don't think are mutually exclusive. Mm-hmm. But for instance, when you look at things like Romance Dawn, and the early arcs, we start with things like tyranny, like with Alvida, and then Captain Morgan, and corruption, like when we're in Arlong Park, we see that the government is coming in with corrupt people right away. So like both sides, they intentionally have good and bad people on both sides, where they're not showing that people are all shit on one side or another. And I think that the beginning arcs being less obviously political, but political in their theming, like tyranny or corruption or discrimination or slavery, like the bondage of Nami, I think is an intentional thing that Oda was doing as a way to slowly, quietly drag you into a political manga without knowing it, because he could touch on all these different political themes without actually going, hey, we're going to talk about modern slavery. It is time to talk about corruption in the government. Instead, he would just have these characters doing things on all sides, every single one of them, everyone from the pirates to the government, to everyone was shit at some point. And I think that he just did that intentionally as a way of creating what I called a quiet political floor in which to build on.
So something that I want to bring up here, first, I'm going to not disagree with you for the sake of, this is a belief that I have. When people say it's just about freedom, I think what people forget is that freedom can be a very basic philosophical concept where it's about, yeah, I like to be free. I like to choose what I want. But freedom isn't guaranteed under most political systems. And someone who thinks with a Marxist lens about the world doesn't think freedom exists in our current system, ideally. I don't think Oda writes about freedom as a generic abstract. I don't think he writes about it as, I want to do what I want. I think, especially as the series goes on, and we see this a lot in the Four Emperors saga, Oda thinks about what freedom means in a very political way. We see him really bring into question who is free? What grants you freedom? Are the people who were free and happy in Dressrosa actually free if their leader was too weak to protect them and protect their freedom? Were the people in Whole Cake Island choosing to give their soul to Big Mom actually free if leaving and not giving their soul would likely cost their lives? I think that Oda doesn't think about freedom as a very vague and abstract thing, but as a real thing that we can see tangibly, even early on, the way you're talking about. Now, to play devil's advocate, I will say, sure, But it's not like evil kings and bad guys are exclusive to really intentionally political media. Like, people use a bad guy who is an evil king or corrupt or takes people freedom all the time for fairly non-political feeling works, just because it's an easy way to create motivation. So how would you argue then that One Piece is doing something different than just using a trope for the sake of filling in space?
Are you asking me the question?
I'm asking you the question. Defend your point against this counter argument.
Okay, ask me the question part again, because you said so many things about freedom that I was processing that when you got to the question,
I'll try word salad a bit less. I'm sorry.
No, just the question part.
Hey, I'm sorry. Most of the time I argue points, it's been in a university setting, so I'm a bit, the academia language.
No, it's not that. In my universe, when you say something that's rich, it actually deserves thinking. I don't just like allow you to talk by without thinking of it.
So when you got to the question at the end is, lots of media uses things like tyrants, evil kings, or slavery just because it's an easy source of motivation, but the media itself doesn't feel very politically motivated. It's just a way of having a bad guy. How would you say One Piece differs from that approach?
Okay, well, I think first of all, this won't be it isn't initially political to say this when we're talking about freedom. Lots of people use things that are what we call foil in storytelling to show when something is more or less of something. Like I always say, Cinderella's stepsisters being evil crap baskets in order to make Cinderella look that much better. But one of the things that they do in One Piece, and one of the reasons that we have that it's intentionally written as an idea of freedom, because is that a question that you're kind of putting out there? Like how is it?
Well, how is it writing about freedom not as an abstract, but as something political? And how, when you talk about we have these evil leaders and stuff, that's a thing that non-political vibe media can do.
Yeah, one of the things that he does right away, though, is he defines freedom not in a loud way and not in a political way initially. He defines it in a personal way.
Yes.
Which is really important. So he defines Luffy knowing since he was a tiny child that he wanted to be free and having this desire to create his own future and move away from the place where we find out his grandfather has forced him to be. He's under the care of certain people. He pulls himself out of that and lives with his brothers in a garbage forest. But we find out all these quiet ways of freedom. Nami striving against Arlong when he was trying to keep her held in freedom. Dude who's in the treasure beach in a treasure bucket. I'm sad for him all the time. And thank you. And his need for freedom. We have Kobe and his need to choose his direction and being under someone else's rules. So we have personal freedoms all the way across the board. And we see Luffy's desire for freedom as being something where every time Luffy strives for freedom, it feels like he's also striving for the freedom of everyone else. And so it's a quieter, more personal level freedom at first, where somebody's freedom is being taken away by bigger ideals, but we don't touch on the bigger ideal at first. He completely just does it on a really, really personal level. Like, we don't talk about the fact that all the fishermen are slaves at first. We show the fishermen as enslaving, and then we only look at Nami and then what they're doing to her town. And so it goes out from a personal out. And so I think that was very intentional, because I think he is trying to show, like in the beginning, if you start to think about it, it's actually wild how many levels of lack of freedom that he shows, right? Between people entrapped, just living somewhere, people being forced to live under conditions they don't want to, actually being enslaved, towns not being able to lead themselves the way they want to because they're being led astray, all the different ways that he shows how somebody can be unfree. He sets up like the entire beginning of the story, showing all the ways in which people aren't free. And then after that, he shows the larger political structures that are keeping them from that freedom. And the larger political structures that want them to be free. We are introduced to Dragon in the first 100 chapters, which I know sounds like a lot if you're not into One Piece. And he is fighting for the freedom of, quote unquote, all people. But within the first little while, it becomes really apparent to me that he's setting things up as kind of this anarchy and libertarianism. And he's saying, I'm going to show you all the ways in which people aren't free. I'm going to show you what's keeping them from freedom. And then I'm going to show you what people are doing to bring people freedom. And I think that's why I know that it is a political setup of freedom is a political setup in here and not just a pop-off. Otherwise, he wouldn't have built such a beautiful foundation of personal freedoms. And then what are the larger things that are keeping these people from having those freedoms?
I like this point. So most of what you're arguing, if I can like sum it up real quick, is the idea that the fact that we start personal to engage with it, you think it's made more political by the fact that we don't start to really analyze these systems of oppression, power, and freedom until we've already gotten people engaged, like that it's thought out and we're not just jumping into these ideas, which if I can add on to that, I think the reason that feels like an argument that this is done intentionally to be political is that if you were doing this just for the sake of an evil government or an evil king is a trope, wouldn't you start there? Wouldn't you start with that if you were just doing it for the sake of filling in space?
No, yeah. You wouldn't start from the larger pieces, because the other reason that you would do this is if you were trying to make sure that this is a story where people just didn't run away and be like, this is too political. Mm-hmm. You would start by making people care about the people involved in it. People love Nami. People wanted Nami to be free. The fact that Luffy came in and acted as a force of good with the Straw Hats and released Nami from slavery, people bought into it. They wanted it. It meant something to them. Freeing a single person is a big deal. It's like they stopped showing the fields full of people who didn't have any food in the ads when they were trying to get people to give money to charities for children that were starving. Because at one time, like, we had all these famines in Ethiopia and other places. And instead, they just would start showing an individual kid, because people are like, I can't save all these people. And they would be like, what about this one kid? And I think that's what he really did in the beginning of the manga, is he wanted to have larger political structures. So he made you care about them by caring about the people that they affected.
I can see that. Now, my thought is, how do you turn that into an argument that this was done not just intentionally to be a good, because you could argue that this is just done to be a good storyteller, that you do this because that's the way to get people invested in your world. Do you think that ties back to how we can prove that this was done with political intentions?
Yeah.
Okay.
I absolutely do. Okay, but this is something like first of all, this is one of the very biggest topics in One Piece.
Yes, the pursuit of freedom, he also, I will say, while slavery and oppression come up all the time in media, regardless of if it feels political or not, and that seems insane to say to some people, but think about it. Slavery makes for an easy bad guy. Like, what do you do in a story if you want someone to clearly be in the wrong, clearly be evil, clearly be someone we want to be defeated, but you don't want to show anything too horrific? Like, you don't want to have anything on screen that is too disgusting. Slavery. Because the evil of it is understood. It's culturally, we are in a world where we know that it's bad to enslave people.
Even though slavery is at an all-time high ever.
I mean, Dubai propping up those numbers for real.
Yeah, we all are, but yes.
How do we pitch a bad guy, someone absolutely horrible?
But this is what I was trying to say, and I obviously said it bad. So let me tell you, because I can see how you could say what I was saying was just a story, like a creation of a story.
Yeah.
But it's not. Okay, so when you look at Nami and her freedom from Alarm Park, right? We go to Nami is being enslaved by these people. That's whatever. That's a terrible thing. We care. We want her unenslaved. Then we go out one more step. Nami's town is being controlled by these people. So I'm going to ask you to care about not just Nami now. I'm going to ask you to care about an entire town. Mm-hmm. And you're like, ooh, that's hard. Then we start to look out a little further. And later on, we find all of the fishmen are actually being enslaved around the world and are being bought and sold in places. And that's where their anger comes from and where all this happened. Every time we look at something, he takes it up to the next level and intentionally makes it more and more political and a bigger and bigger social issue. We do it again in Alabasta. We go in and we find that Vivi, and she's actually against us. And then over time, she helps Luffy learn how to be a leader. Then Luffy decides he wants to help her get back Alabasta from one bad person. Then we find out that one bad person is a part of a bigger group. Then we find out that one bad person is also part of an even bigger group that's part of the pirates. Then we find out that's linked to the to the evilest people at the top of the chart on the red line, and it keeps going out and out and out. It's not, he could have at any point not have continued those same threads so they moved out and out. It still would have been amazing storytelling just to talk about Nami and then slavery. Talking about the fishmen independently as a race, that would have been interesting. It would have been super interesting to meet them, and then we would have been like, oh, I remember those guys. They attacked Nami, and one of them did this bad thing, that one person. But instead, every time he goes out, he doesn't talk about it separate. He shows how it's politically linked and connected to everybody's different freedoms.
I agree. Something else I want to bring up that you glossed over there because it was part of a broader point, but I think you can dive in on, is how seriously the theme of leadership is taken. It was something that in my first read through or watch through, because I was a teenager.
That's because we're talking about freedom, so I was going to bring up leadership later.
Yeah. No, I'm just using this as a segue. I agree. You did nothing wrong there. You were talking about a different topic. I want to go back and zoom in.
My feelings aren't hurt.
How One Piece talks about leadership, I think, feels to me very political too. Now, I think a lot of people think about politics and political as a very specific thing. Does this lean left or right? Does this pressure people on the idea of voting and who you should vote for?
I want your opinion first. Do you think that the freedom is politically involved, and what's your evidence that it's politically involved?
Oh, okay. We want to back before we move on. I think freedom doesn't, like I said earlier, freedom doesn't have to be politically involved. It really doesn't. You can write about freedom as a broad conceptual thing. Now, that is still political, but it's not necessarily what I would call political writing. Why is it political? Well, because your society determines how free you are. They determine what you have access to. They determine if you have healthcare so that you can freely take risks and feel safe in your life. Your society determines if you have good enough, stable enough living conditions to be free. If certain things are against the law, if you have freedom of speech. Freedom is political. However, you can write really generically about freedom. You cannot give a shit about freedom or about politics and write about freedom. One Piece writes about freedom in a way where it actually talks about what gives you freedom and what takes freedom away. And I think the deep analysis of freedom in One Piece is what makes it a political writing about freedom. So
I think this entire, honestly, I think we could get rid of any question and everyone could go in on it, and you could just talk about One Piece, freedom, and politics all by itself.
Yes.
Because he sets it up, and I think it is the most important thing about the entire manga, out of everything, is this question of freedom. That's why I was a little shocked and dismayed when you started with it, because I was like, oh, damn, we going to freedom. Is because
I just wanted to find an on-ramp wherever we found it.
Which is, but in my opinion, and everyone will have different political views on this, freedom is the entire crux of One Piece. It's the largest thread because it's the most political thing, because of the thing that you just said. Your government and the way that it runs determines the level of freedom you have in your life. And Oda knows that the thing that we care about almost more than anything else as human beings on this planet is how free we get to be. And the thing that we argue for is, am I free to do the things I like to do, or are you free to do the things you like to do? And the version of some of the things that people like to do can be dangerous and ungood. If we're talking about guns, etc., the question of freedom is a huge thing. Should I be free to own all these guns? What levels of security should there be? The question of guns comes down for most people to a question of freedom. The question of drugs comes to a question of freedom. The question, almost every question, the question of marrying the partner you want to is freedom. Everything comes down to freedom. And so to start from freedom is what Oda has done. The very first thing is we find a boy who more and more as he goes through and is becoming a man, we find out freedom is the most important thing to him and his version of what it means to be the most free. And that's what you choose to make this entire thing about? That's the most political thing you can talk about, freedom.
I agree, but I also understand why people could ignore it, because so often freedom is treated as such an ambiguous thing. But one of the ways that I think I realize in what you were talking about, One Piece talks about freedom in a very unique way, is the analysis of freedom and hierarchy is really interrogated. And the way I'll point that out is you can in theory be free, but celestial dragons have the freedom to take your freedom away. A celestial dragon can choose to make you a slave, and you are forced to obey. Slavery is outlawed, but is kept running for the celestial dragons. There is truly a different set of laws that apply to celestial dragons than everyone else. It is examining the idea that even the laws that exist in this world to facilitate people's liberties, to give them the safety that they occupy, are knowingly broken and allowed to be so for adding freedoms to those available to the ruling class, to the celestial dragons. And I don't think a series that's writing apolitically would acknowledge so well that in a society where someone is free to take your freedoms away, you can't truly be free.
Interesting that Vernu said, so Emu is the most free then. And I would say no. Where do we see Emu? What does Emu do? Where does Emu go? Like,
Emu has power, and that power has cost needing to not exist.
Exactly. And so I don't know if Emu is the most free. Even though Emu has the most control and can make the biggest changes and take away the most freedom, I don't think Emu is the most free.
Because in theory, Emu has freedoms that no one else has. Emu has the freedom to destroy a country. Emu has the freedom to kill anyone they want. Emu has the freedom to command the world government. But Emu doesn't have the freedom to go on an adventure.
Who would you say is the most free in this world?
Who is the most free in this world? At the moment of story we are at, it is Marshall D. Teach.
No.
Do you want me to explain why I think so?
Go ahead.
Marshall D. Teach is not being presented with real obstacles. He is doing as he pleases. He allows his crew to do as they please. They are motivated enough to serve him that they are constantly working, whether ordered or not, to improve his freedoms and his access to resources. No one has been able to stop him, and he is just following his ambition. I think at the moment, at the exact moment of the series we're in, Marshall D. Teach is the most free, especially because his territories are being managed mostly out of fear. People are just acting on their own behalf to protect and work for their territories just because of Teach's name. Now, you want to talk about someone else who's really free?
No, I want to argue against that first.
You go.
So, yeah, but Marshall D. Teach can't go anywhere in the world right now. If he goes, he would have to go in the capacity of a warlord or a person taking over. He would have to
go as a military actor to a lot of the world.
He can't go as a non-military actor, whereas I think that Luffy can actually go anywhere as anything he wants.
I was going to say the other contender is Luffy, and I think you raise a great point for why
I think that Luffy, because Luffy is able to go anywhere that he wants and doesn't have to act in one way only, because Teach would only go in a military capacity. I think that Luffy is our current most free person.
You're right. There are a lot of countries in the world where he's not a military actor when he goes there. Teach's territories, he approaches them as an occupier. He is only able to interact with them from the perspective of an oppressor. Now, I'll say, I still think Teach is more free than the other emperors. I think he has more freedom than Shanks or Buggy based off of how he runs his empire. But I think there's a really good point you raise. Now, the counterpoint really is that Blackbeard's crew is doing at the moment so much for Teach to enable what he can do in the world. That's why you could still argue Teach.
I think Blackbeard's crew is way more free than Blackbeard himself is, because they can show up in places.
But I don't agree, because I think Blackbeard's not running his shit like the other emperors. I think he can kind of just arrive. Now, that being said, I think there's a great argument for Luffy, and I think the only reason I wouldn't say Luffy as my first answer is because Luffy has only been an emperor for a couple weeks, so his fleet hasn't been shaping the world in his image for that long.
But I think that Oda intentionally creates a looseness in Luffy's connections to things and doesn't make him act in one single way, so that he can have that freedom to him all the time in the story, so that Luffy feels like the most free thing.
True.
But somebody said Enel, and
Enel's stuck on the moon.
Yeah, but if Enel came down to Earth, Who the shit knows who Enel is?
Yeah, he's just going to get to be a tourist, because one of the things we talked about and why One Piece's freedom is so political is that the world government, we finally had confirmed, makes transit specifically harder. It's hard to get around the world. The world government intentionally makes it hard to get around. That's finally confirmed. It's been a thing people said they didn't do it on purpose. No, they did. They did, it turns out.
They did.
Now,
obviously, I said it and everyone was like, "Rah, rah, rah."
Enel could skip it. Eneru could skip it. He could just teleport around as lightning and no one could stop him.
Yeah, and he could just show up places people wouldn't know who the shit he was, and he has a lot of power. Because I would think, like, if we're going to argue, like, okay, well, then the most free person would be someone you don't know. No, they can't travel around the world the same way these people can. They can't get into places these people can, because power is also freedom, and Oda is making that clear.
Well, but that's a big reason I think the only options are Blackbeard and Luffy, because even if Eneru comes back, he doesn't have loyalists providing him more opportunity. Luffy and Blackbeard's crews and fleets are giving them more options, more opportunity. They're supporting them in their freedoms.
You can't come in and act in any way that you want. Blackbeard, I mean, not that I think that Blackbeard wants to come in and act in a good way, but Blackbeard isn't just going to a regular place to have a vacation. He has to come somewhere as a warlord, take it over, and then have people kowtow to him.
Even if he goes there as a vacation, he is the oppressor. He doesn't have the freedom to act as an equal and peer with the people around him. Luffy has
doesn't have the freedom of choice to be the person that he wants situationally.
Yeah.
If you don't have a freedom of choice to be the person you want situationally, then I would say that you don't have as much freedom, and I would say it's Luffy.
Fair. I think there's a reason in how One Piece is written that these are the two you can best argue for.
Yeah, I would agree. And so I think that the fact that we can have this argument over freedom like this, it just kind of shows that Oda built this piece from a small F freedom at a human level to big F freedoms at a political structure level. Intentionally. Interconnected them intentionally, interconnected them politically.
Now, I want to move on. I want to go zoom in back to talking about leadership.
Oh wait, I have one more thing to say. Okay. You can't write a story that is threaded as freedom with, in my opinion, when you think of politics, you can't write a story that is threaded as freedom coded first without it being political. Freedom is innately political.
I believe freedom is political, but I think people have the capacity to write poorly. I believe people have this amazing ability to not really think very much and treat freedom as a really abstract concept.
Did you just say amazing ability?
Yeah, I thought it was funny.
Carry on, my wayward son. They'll be depressed when you are done. I genuinely
think you can write about freedom apolitically if you just treat it vague and you treat it as, I want to be free. I have freedom. I'm going to do what I want and be a goofball. I think tons of the people who've written Deadpool comics are apolitically writing about freedom.
Okay, but then you know what you just did is you proved that Oda wrote it well. Oda is a good writer. He understands that in order to write something well, you have to be writing it from a place where a paradigm exists that you're writing it. He knows that freedom is political.
I think he's not stupid,
and he's a good writer. Therefore, he would not be writing it shit. Therefore, he'd be writing freedom in its political aspects.
I want to know, audience, I'm holding back on so much conversation about Luffy because I don't think until like episode 3 of talking about politics in One Piece will we have the space to really dive into why Luffy is a great, well-written character for a political manga. Now, if you are in the comments and wanting to be like, but why Luffy doesn't believe in politics, so how is the series political? I agree. I don't think Luffy has a political ideology. I think he has an ideology that if you extrapolated and followed yourself would be seen as political, but I don't think Luffy is a politically minded person. But I'm going to let you know on episode 3 of this, when we come back to it, we're going to do these probably every month or so, we will get to Luffy. We will be, I promise you, and I will explain.
But Luffy, whenever I want, you can't stop my freedom.
Why he is the way he is. We can't quite. We need to set the groundwork before we can get to Luffy. He's a big deal.
Freedom.
Now, I want to talk about leadership. Okay.
Okay. Why are we starting second with leadership?
Because you mentioned it in your run-up, and it gave me ideas.
All right, go ahead. Pop off.
So leadership, as a concept, has to be seen as political, right? Well, I think people could argue not. And the way people would argue that leadership doesn't have to be is because there
Yes,
is leadership in apolitical circumstances, like a group leader or a CEO. There's a comment we got. Now, I don't think people realize, because they treat the world they live in as a default. People really often see how the world is for them as a default way of being that is natural. Liberal society is not natural. We built this politically. There was a revolution about it. It was great.
thanks
A
a lot.
man.
Now I have a song in my head now.
A man wore a hat. So to that commenter, I say, I fully get how you believe a CEO is not a political institution. I fully understand how you don't see a class project as political. That makes sense.
Did you just say a man wore a hat?
Yeah, a man wore a powdered wig and a hat. It was great. Everyone loved him.
Carry on.
I fully understand that commenter, because I think if you see your world, the world you live in, as the natural way of being, you kind of just assume everything within it that's emergent is non-political. But if you live in a state that doesn't have investment capital, CEO doesn't exist. Investment capital is a decision a state makes. Being a capitalist state is a decision the government makes. That is a political choice. And I think what that comment made me realize is a lot of people see politics as specifically elections. They think of politics as the campaigns and beliefs of voters and elections in a democracy. And I think One Piece is genuinely more broadly political and more interestingly political. It's not just about democracies. In fact, you've probably noticed One Piece doesn't bring up democracy. And I think there's a very good reason, because I don't think it could be political in the interesting way it does if it took a moment to be like, hey, let's do a cool election. Who's running for pirate president? I
think it's really important, as a matter of fact, that this is the thing that we point out, is that I think a lot of times you're hitting a nail on the head there. When we talk about One Piece, people want to just make everything that is political be like political structures that they're used to. Yeah. And so we think about them all as democracy, whereas something that Oda has done time and again, and now that I'm allowed out in the world of One Piece, and I've been hearing some other people think, he is unafraid to touch on every country's politics, but not just today, in all days. He is unafraid to talk about everything from the Tokugawa Bafuku to Italian forms of democracy or governmency to non-governmency and Marxism and everything in between. He doesn't give a shit. He's talking about stuff that's taking place in Barbados. I had somebody send me a message all about how close it was and how much it linked in Joy Boy. Like, the man gives 0 Fs and goes all over the place.
Absolutely. And someone else is pointing out that Oda lives in a country that has a divine emperor.
Exactly.
Like, it's not like the politics he's writing are entirely disconnected for the world he lives in. Now, this all said, like I said, I fully understand if you think of politics as meaning, who are you voting for? Here are the platforms of the party, and you think we are introducing into One Piece these concepts because you associate things like, when we talk about how Oda's pro-gay rights because of Impel Down, we got comments talking about how, oh, I thought Oda was writing about how gay people would be if they were cool and was actually insulting real gay people for not being cool.
One made me sad.
Wild take. Interesting. Again,
that one actually made me sad.
Yes, this is a real comment we got. A lot of people have an idea that politics means the way they are in the modern world. They see the current debates around gay rights and gay liberation the way they are and are seen as the only way you can have discussions about that. But the reason they are drawn as out and proud queers who are like, yeah, we're fucking perverts, get over it, is because that was the political message for gay liberation in the time it was based off of. I am not going to accept arguments that Cabaret was not an inspiration for Impel Down. Come on. Nazi Satan's the jailer, and there is a secret gay cabaret that are also political revolutionaries. These ideas are very intentionally linked from a historical perspective. But I do understand thinking of these things only from a modern lens, because that's the world you live in. If you've only ever seen something from one perspective, of course that's kind of where you go. And you see the way gay people are drawn in Impel Down, and you go, well, that doesn't see how gay people in modern liberation fronts view themselves. So clearly this isn't about real gay people. I actually understand that.
Yeah. Talking about One Piece again like this is just making me realize how freaking good it is.
It's really good.
No, it's not really good. It's really good.
True. It needs to be said slowly. Put the finesse on that word.
Put a little respect on the way that you say the word really.
It's
like, it is really good.
But leadership as a concept is political because politics are about the ways humans organize themselves. But people see the only type of leader that's political because the world we live in being the elected office of the president or the governor or the mayor or whatever. And someone's right. Water 7's a democracy. We don't really touch on it though. Like it's not, we don't talk about the election. We don't talk about like.
It's an interesting democracy too, because it's clearly a democracy that takes place in Italy.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different, a little bit the same.
Yeah. But the conversations about leadership here are about the obligations a leader has to their people. It's about how to rule a crew as though it's a country. It's the lessons given by someone raised to be trained in governance, explaining to the would-be pirate king what his obligations as captain are.
So without pontificating too strongly, I want you to tell me then, why does that mean that leadership is a political concept? You're going to have to write about a leader in a place where you have so many countries and so many places. You're going to have to write about leadership. You do. So tell me why it's political here.
Again, I don't think it has to be. And this one, I don't think you need to write badly to write leadership apolitically. Hear me out.
Tell me why.
What if you just are in a mindset where you think it's okay to treat the world we live in as a given? Okay?
Yeah.
Then can you write about learning to be a great leader, to be the captain of the Cub Scouts, to be a good scout leader?
You absolutely could.
You can write a coming of age story where someone learns leadership skills to be a scout leader. You can write a story about someone learning to be a good CEO, someone learning how to run a classroom well. These are leadership positions. And if you
then why do you think it makes it political?
Now, One Piece talks about leadership in a very different way. Things aren't really treated as a given. Who's in charge isn't a given. People in this world use military might to take over nations. We have leaders constantly changing hands. This is an unstable setting where who is in charge isn't guaranteed. And it isn't just about what it takes to be in charge, but who deserves to, who is able to take charge. I think that feels like a very fine difference. It feels like a very nominal difference, but I think that's actually very significant. Because you can really only write about leadership apolitically if you assume the structures that validate that form of leadership. To speak in layman's terms, if you assume that the government and the Cub Scouts organization are saying a scout leader is a thing that matters, you can write about leadership apolitically, right? Because you've taken as a given that the Cub Scouts exist and the government exists, and that they are keeping these institutions in place for you, and you don't have to question that. One Piece constantly questions the validity of the leadership. It constantly questions the validity of people being in charge. And that change necessitates acknowledging, okay, what are our thoughts on who should be in charge? What are our thoughts on what being in charge well looks like? Leadership's not a skill that people just learn, but it's a skill that people learn to deserve the right to change the world, to deserve the right to change the lives of the people underneath them.
Okay. So to layman's term, what you're saying, you're talking about how in One Piece, we've seen time and time again, that rather than just saying this is the leader and this is how it is and it's a given, that we question leadership, we look at whether or not leadership is going well, and we also, especially in the case of Luffy, learn how to become a better leader. And even though Luffy doesn't acknowledge that he is a leader or should be a leader, every single time that he grows as a person, he grows in leadership intentionally.
Yeah, exactly that. It's like, think about this, right? Is the movie I described political where someone's learning how to be a good Cub Scouts leader?
Yeah, well, it's not, unless we make it political, and I want to see that movie.
Political, where the person who's learning to be a good Cub Scouts leader reevaluates who should be allowed and pushes for change within the organization to change the qualifications and standards for a Cub Scout leader.
Not only is it, but that's a movie I want to see.
That actually sounds good, doesn't it?
And I have an amazing name for it.
So when we say in the street, okay.
No, ask me my amazing name.
Yeah, what's your amazing name?
My amazing name is Scouting.
That's pretty good. That's not bad.
It is. It's simple. They're looking about changing. They're scouting for change. Like, come on.
So, to the commenter, when we said all forms of leadership are political, I actually, in retrospect, while I do believe I'm right, because politics is the act of organizing humans, I do think you don't necessarily need to write about leadership politically. But One Piece very much does. I think the second you question the structure of leadership, you are making a political message instead of an apolitical message.
Okay, so your argument would be that it becomes political the minute you're just only the minute you are questioning the structure of leadership.
Yes.
Interesting.
Or
why
not
only?
necessarily only. I think that's one way you can guarantee that it's being written politically. There are likely others I'm not thinking of. I think if someone else writes about leadership in a different way where the structures aren't questioned, that is political, and points it out to me, I could end up being like, oh yeah, that also makes it political. But I don't think you can write about questioning the structures that enable a leader to function that is apolitical. I don't think that can happen.
Yeah, okay. There's a lot of places too when we question the structure of leadership. Everything from like Alabasta and Ennis, Sabaody, Dressrosa, Skypiea, Whole Cake Island, Wano, constant Luffy,
Constantly
more
we
Luffy.
question the validity. I think Dressrosa is my favorite, and I bring this up all the time. Was King Riku a good king if his people were free, but he was too weak to protect their freedom?
Were the people actually free if nobody can keep their freedom for them?
Exactly. Does a state have the obligation to defend what it offers? And I used to be against this point, and after devil's advocating in chat or comments against someone who was like, you're wrong, you should blame the aggressor, not the defending country, I've come around. If your country is going to be unable to protect what it offers, then you didn't offer it. And that sucks because obviously you also blame the invader. You do.
Which means you came around, unfortunately for you, to my way of thinking, because it's what I talked about with Whitebeard. When he made Fish Island, when he quote unquote made Fish Island free, but it was only free if he was there.
Yeah.
Then he didn't actually give them freedom. That's not real freedom.
Yes, absolutely. It's the same as Shanks. He's going around needing to do things he doesn't want to do. He's not free. He's doing things he doesn't want to do because he won't be able to keep people safe if his name is weak.
Yeah, exactly. And so you can't sit there and claim that you have freedom or that you have created freedom for somebody through your work.
Holy shit.
If when you're not around, they're not free.
And that scene highlights how free Luffy is. Because while Shanks has to do that, Luffy has someone apologizing and learning their lesson and doing everything they can to make the consequences not come back to Luffy.
Exactly.
That's such a difference. Because he's acting merely out of inspiration, Luffy's freedom is not lost from Barto's actions.
Exactly.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Luffy is the freest person in this story.
Okay, I think currently I could still argue Blackbeard, but I think Luffy, that is exclusively because he's had more time to build his empire.
I'm sorry. I think that Luffy's still the freest person. He doesn't have to be a certain person when he goes place to place. True. He gets to be exactly who he wants, exactly stay how long he wants. He chooses who he helps and how, or if he helps. He's got more free will than somebody who, if the government shows up, would run in a very different way. Luffy might hide out and then act against them. Frickin' Blackbeard would have to decide, am I fighting? Because that's the only thing available for me here.
Am I fighting or fleeing?
Am I fighting or fleeing? That's it. That's all he's got.
Yeah, there's something to this. What else can we talk about real quick as like thematic points to talk about? Because I think leadership and freedom are two of the really big ones for this conversation. Can I just say, great job devil's advocating and interrogating my point. I think you asked a really insightful question.
Well, you know what? I don't know if you heard this. I'm really good at synthesizing. That's why they call me the teacher.
We're so good. Look at us. Look at us go.
That's why I do the thing where I teach. Let me just go into here. I was thinking about some of the different political themes, and I went through it and created kind of a list of what I think the political themes are in each area. And I wondered, like, if you wanted to go through them kind of chronologically, and I don't mean today, I mean in general.
Chronologically,
because in my opinion, we have hit two of the most important overarching themes of One Piece as far as politics go.
Yeah,
the freedom,
leadership.
and leadership, I think, are two of the most overarching themes in One Piece when we're talking about politics.
Mm-hmm.
But there are specific politics that I think each area hits. And I would like to have an argument. Good night, Stazzy boy. So good seeing you. I would like to have an argument.
He's saying good night to Red Dragon.
Oh, to Red Dragon. Good night, Red Dragon. Wait a minute. Stazzy boy, do you know who got me the books for Berserk? I need to know, Stazzy boy. I need to know. And someone told me you might know. I have to get this. I have to collect my money so I can do nothing with it. Points. One day, Drawk. I'm going to do all the things with those points. But I was wondering if we wanted to go through and have arguments like Romance Dawn or Arlong Park and decide what political systems or what political things you think they're talking about in each one. If we're doing multiple, I think
we do several broader videos, and then where we go over the politics of One Piece. I think we do 3 broader videos. I want to do this one, and then actually we're going to go over arc by arc next video, because the next One Piece political video I want to do is about all the villains, is about the villains' ideologies and what they represent.
I want to go through. It's important to me that we go through and decide what main political thing is he talking about in each area.
Yes, I think doing villains / arcs is our next one, our next episode, and then I think our third and final, before we can do like really precise political breakdowns if we want to, is going to be Luffy and Blackbeard.
Oh, you just want it to be Blackbeard.
It's mostly Luffy.
Do you think there should be anyone else included with Blackbeard?
Let me tell you why. It's mostly about Luffy. Maybe Luffy, Blackbeard, and Emu, actually. But it's mostly about Luffy. But you know why, because we've talked about what we think Luffy politically represents. And because of that, you kind of have to bring up Blackbeard.
Oh, I don't disagree. Emu has to be in there, though. And I'm thinking, like, at one time, we would have said the planet. And I would not say the planets now.
No,
they do not have
the
freedom.
And by the way, when we get to the Luffy video, someone asked earlier, if Luffy's free, what does he gain from being the Pirate King at this point? If he's the most free, we think. Well, first of all, he wouldn't know he's the most free. He's not reading the manga. He can't compare. And then the other thing is he can be more free. And I'll get to what that means in our Luffy episode, because I'm so excited. But the things about Luffy are so dense and interesting that I really think we can't tangle them with the other streams.
I will agree with that. And you know how non-agreeable I am.
Something that we can talk about is you've talked about the historical allusions proving that it's political. So let's touch on that quickly.
Yeah, it's interesting that for me, I see One Piece as being so deeply historical. When somebody said, Oda is a person who really likes history, I was like, yep, no duh. Because for me, he brings in things that are direct historical references that I'm always like, God dang, this man is a genius. And it was so cool for me because there was a person who wrote their master's paper on comfort women from World War II. And after we had our whole talk about Amazon Lily, they actually said, I cannot believe I didn't see this before. This is so deeply about comfort women. After having written the paper, it blows my mind that I couldn't see it. And then they told me other ways in which it was about comfort women. And I was just blown away because they knew things, obviously, that I had not known because they spent a lot of time in it. And he does that over and over again. I also think, though, that you and I are still in contention about this.
Yes. We have a different interpretation of this, and this will be its own stream at some point.
Yes, we definitely do. We have different interpretation, which I love. I love that we're both interpreting differently. I think that in general, that One Piece is actually, and by no means do I think this is the only thing that One Piece is doing. Let me just say that right away.
Absolutely. That's necessary.
This is just a minor thread. I think it's a thread. I think Oda has threaded World War II throughout the entirety of One Piece, all the way from the beginning to the end. I think the falling of the Berlin Wall is going to be when we see the red line come down. I think we just saw atomic weaponry with the Leluja being destroyed. I have all sorts of other areas in which I think, including the comfort women, including Impel Down, being similar to all the different very, very bad imprisonments that people, including Nazis, put Jewish people through in concentration camps and other things. But I really do think that the entire story has kind of a threaded, coded background of the history of World War II, including, I believe, that the Cold War part is about to come out, that we're going to see, and a rebuilding of nations in a very different way in Elbaf. So I'm looking forward to it. I have a few.
If Cold War were happening, aren't
Yeah.
we kind of seeing the start of the first proxy war with Bartow and Shanks?
Yes, we are.
Interesting. It's not
So
nothing.
I'm just saying,
it's not nothing.
I think the entire history of World War II is coming out as a thread all throughout One Piece. And the reason I think that is because time and time again, I'd always be like, whoa, this is so this coded. This is so this coded. Mm-hmm. He keeps attaching actual historical events to things that are in his story, including, like, I don't care if you can't see it. It's there. When you look at Whole Cake Island, the fact that he used the name for the tree that is also the name of the person who wrote Wizard of Oz, and then he talked about and looked at a system of governance through there. He's literally picking out different time periods and different historical pieces and shoving them in so under everybody's nose that it's just brilliant.
I also want to briefly bring up, someone said they felt like Dressrosa was an imperial core country and a statement on an imperial core country. I think it is an imperial core country by definition, but I actually think Whole Cake is by far the better observation politically and through analysis of an imperial core country. So for people who don't know, the concept of an imperial core is that if you have a nation that conquers economically or militaristically and expands to create an empire, the core, so Rome for the Empire of Rome, London for the Great British Empire, the United States for the United States economic empire, that country will be given great luxury while draining resources and vitality of the countries that its tendrils are in. And the reason I think Whole Cake Island is the better example of that is because, first of all, it has an actual emperor. So there we go. I win.
And also,
second of all, we see at the beginning the worldwide raid for resources specifically for a luxury for the ruling class of Whole Cake Island.
Yeah. Dressrosa has occupied Europe.
Yeah, okay. I liked your Franco take a little better, but I think it's not one thing. I think nothing in One Piece is simple. I think he.
Oh no, I still think it's Franco and everything else. I'm just saying the hidden core of World War II is
Dusty Draugr,
occupied Europe.
Dusty Draugr, I don't know if that's a terrible joke or a great observation, that if Impel Down is supposed to be concentration camps, Magellan is gas chambers.
He is.
Fuck, that's kind of good.
He is. It isn't supposed to be. And meanwhile, you have cabaret going on in a secret place where everyone is hidden out in plain view. People who would be put in concentration camps, BS.
Oh, man.
I'm telling you, I'm not wrong. I think One Piece has an entire hidden thread of World War II. I have it in order. I've become obsessed with it.
We'll do a video for this. I'm going to ask that this part of it be cut down by the editor, not because I don't think you're right, but because I want to save this topic for the video on it.
But give everyone just a little hint of something that's really interesting.
Little taste of that last section.
Little taste. This is only for the kids who are sitting here in the Twitch, but just taste.
Just
yep.
We taste.
Yeah, but I think I can convince you of it. Look, when you go through freaking One Piece and you see things like Dressrosa, it's amazing that anyone can see it not as being political. The One Piece, and I know we're supposed to be working on kind of very political, or is it not political? And I understand.
But I think it's important to interrogate our idea and look at why you could think otherwise. Otherwise, we're not making a good point. If
okay, but right away,
it's political.
The Void Century is censorship.
Yes.
You've got human experiments and ethics going on in Punk Hazard.
Yep.
You have all of the historical things like Baroque works with Crocodile, and Amazon Lily, and all these different places that can be connected to historical parallels in culture. Then you have the discrimination, racial discrimination, and the political hatred. It goes from World War I, at the end of World War I, into I think it's going to go past the Cold War. But that's for later, Paladin. Stop pulling me off of the topic, Paladin. You know you can do it. And so I understand You've got revolutionary armies. He didn't have to make revolutionary armies and calling them revolutionary armies. Revolution is political. Revolution just is political.
Okay, and here's a real quick one. And I know we're going to have to talk about this in the Luffy video more. We're going to talk about this a lot more in the Luffy video.
Carry on, it's okay.
People have some negative thoughts about the man, and understandably, not a perfect figure. Dragon is meant to be Che Guevara. He dresses the same, and my man Oda literally has a portrait of Che Guevara in his office. Early photos confirmed that. And the way that's made so clear that we're coming at it from a Marxist angle about the bourgeois is Dragon says his goal isn't actually to fight the world government. He's okay with an organized world government and the nations working together. He's only after the ruling class of elites who a different set of laws apply to. This is definitely meant to be an allegory. Now, is he just Che Guevara? No, he's acting differently. He's his own man.
He's other people too.
He's a character in a fictional story, but he clearly fills that role.
But look, you've got a revolutionary army. You've got a world government who's authoritarian. Here are your major players. And then you've got pirates who are trying to act outside of the system. Outside of what system? Thank you for asking. A system with a hidden dark government at the top that is leading everyone to live in one way. Then you have racial discrimination used as a weapon, a social weapon for control for everyone. Like, this is a massive, massive political masterpiece. The major players of One Piece are all politically backed. They all sit in a political place.
Now, I want to touch on something that you made me think of real quick. And this is one of, I think, the best points of One Piece being both political and using Marxist analysis. Okay?
I would agree that there is some Marxism, but I would say that's not the major thing.
Yes. So Marxist analysis, here's one of my biggest points to why I think this is here and why I think things are definitely political. We're using words like freedom and political so much that they're becoming numb in my mouth.
Yeah? Are they making your tongue go numb?
Yeah. So if you were just making an evil government to be the bad guys and they are just there to be bad, wouldn't you make all of them evil?
Exactly.
If you were making the ruling class of celestial dragons just be there to be punched, instead of making them be shaped by their material circumstances, which is a fancy political Marxist analysis term that means the things around you that affect your life, the structures around you that impact how you live, wouldn't it not be their material circumstances that make them the way they are? But wouldn't they be intrinsically bad? Wouldn't we see them not change and become good from their experiences?
None of them would be able to change.
Exactly. The reason I think this is so deeply political, more than anything, honestly, is that if these were just here for the sake of having bad guys, and it weren't here to make a point about how Oda sees the world, things wouldn't be as nuanced. Now, you could be a good writer and add that nuance in, but I think it's far more likely, to my imagining, that it is intentional, that there is thought behind the fact that it's these people's circumstances that have shaped them, that it's the structures that are the problem. One Piece is not a critique of bad guys. It's a critique of systems. Now, there are bad guys, and they deserve a walloping because they're doing bad stuff. But the system and its evil is always acknowledged. Garp chooses not to become an admiral so that he can be free instead of having to follow the orders of the Celestial Dragons.
Yep.
Oda does put a lot of effort into showing how Celestial Dragons get punished if they do not behave according to their class. Waterdeep Goat, exactly. And a major part of Marxist analysis that people ignore. People will talk about how Marx was like, you just have to kill the rich. Marx wrote a lot about how material circumstances forced wealthy people into misery in just as many ways as it forced poor people into misery. How they were forced... Yeah, sorry, you go.
Also, we see that in World War II as well, and other wars, that you have people like if Germans helped Jewish people, their whole family would be punished and they'd all end up in concentration camps. So it's just a method of control that is a common use by all political groups because One Piece is political. And so it's a thing that he wrote in there. And that's the other thing that I'm talking about when I'm saying hidden beneath your nose political structures. Some people might just see it as good writing to do things where they punish the people who are dragons who don't do the things that dragons are supposed to do, but that's a political choice. Anytime you have a ruling, quiet shadow government who's ruling over, you need your upper class to behave in a certain way in order for the lower class, your proletariat, to have something to look for and to want to be, and in order to control the proletariat. If you don't have people who are saying how you should live and what you should do and upholding the systems for you, then you have to be down there all the time with an army putting the people back into control. But if you can have people like the dragons who can punish, who can lead the way of living the best life, who can be seen as the greatest example of humanity, who get the greatest things so that other people are like, ooh, I wish I could be like them, then you would have to have a country that is totally in control or controlled all the time. You need them. That is a political weapon. An upper class is not just an upper class for no reason. It is a political weapon that means you don't have to have boots on the ground maintaining the discipline of the place that you are ruling.
Now, again, that doesn't need to be political in a story, but this is a story that acknowledges those factors and plays with them and references them. And the fact that it's aware of that and makes it part of the story, I think makes it far more political. So if we're going to look over everything we've said, how do we kind of like come up with a, like, obviously we came into this telling people honestly that we believe the series is political, but we wanted to interrogate our ideas to kind of show their strength. We tried to question each other. We tried to poke holes in it. I think we did a fair job at pointing out arguments that could be made to argue that it's not political. And
I don't think we've done a fair enough job. It's hard.
It's tough to. I think we've.
I would say we have done.
Can we invite chat to question us? Can we invite chat to challenge us on this?
Job, in my opinion.
How about chat? Do you have ideas for ways to question what we've said? Ways to point out flaws in
ways to question
arguments?
whether One Piece could not be political that we could argue about.
Yeah. Because so far a big one that we've had to fall back on is it could just be writing a compelling story, but there's places where that doesn't feel, it feels like we've gone over so many points of a political intention.
You know why it's hard to argue? I just figured out, Drawk.
Why is that?
Is because, and I said this, but in a different way before.
Yes.
He is such a good writer.
Yes.
He is such a great researcher.
Yes.
That the things he does cannot be accidental. Do you know what I mean?
I think that's sort of it. It's hard to believe like that this is just
not a
man
when it's so many things from such a skilled writer. He is not a man who accidentally says anything. He is a man who is so thoughtful in what he puts in his story that it seems impossible to believe that he wouldn't know that things could be taken in a political way, or that he has mirrored a political system.
Someone's saying it isn't just epic fantasy. Okay, no, that said it isn't. I thought, isn't it? I thought you were being serious. Never mind. Okay, you're fine. We're fine. They're not. I thought we had a contradiction.
I saw that game. I saw the idea of overthinking of it. And first of all, let me just, I'm not overthinking. I have one mode, and it's called thinking deeply. And that's what I always tell people. That's not overthinking. That's just how I think. But on the other hand, I think that it's not overthinking. If I could be fair here, there are some things that are so politically obvious. You don't have your entire story based off of 4 main political groups with an overruling shadow government, and then tell me that this isn't based on a political thing. I think people are underthinking.
So someone, EA Killer, is also bringing up, this does feel a lot like when people kept insisting that Lord of the Rings about World War I, when Tolkien himself insisted that it wasn't. And for starters, Tolkien lied about some of his shit. I'm going to be real with you. This is one of those situations where, allow me to be clear about something, right? You remember when I said really early on, you might not have been here, or really early in this stream, I mentioned the idea that you can't only listen to what's said. Modern fascists never say they're fascists. You can't just take what people say at face value. You kind of need to, as I've been saying over and over again, interrogate ideas. Now, why do I say that Tolkien kind of lied a bit about his shit? Well, for starters, Tolkien wrote about how his experiences in the war were harrowing, but they reinforced his belief that the good will triumph, that good will clear the day. He wrote a setting where the core principle of the setting is that good will triumph, that there will be dark times and things will deteriorate and get worse. However, good will triumph. That is his belief, and it was baked into his setting. Now, was it an allegory for World War I? Not necessarily, but there's no world where that wasn't inspired by experiences when he wrote about how those experiences gave him that concept. Additionally, he wrote about how allegories are for cowards or whatever bullshit he said where he doesn't like allegories, but then he goes ahead and basically all of his writings about Protestants equal out to how he writes hobbits, and all of his writing about Catholics or Anglicans line up with how he writes about elves, and all of his writings about Jews are how he writes dwarves. The man may not have believed in allegory, but he accidentally implemented it. That being said, I think if we said One Piece was just World War II and that's what people took from this, Oda would probably be like, that's not true. Because, yeah.
Oh, he'd be like, no.
No, of course it's more than that. Yeah, he said that it wasn't an allegory, not that there was no influence. And I don't think it was necessarily an allegory for World War I, but I think it's fair to examine it. It's fair to cross-reference it. And there is political intentionality in Lord of the Rings. Tolkien did intend for some of his perspectives about things to be implemented. Not in the same way as Oda, obviously, but in a similar way. As much as the intended audience are for teens and kids, it is being written by an adult who will have opinions and ideas he wants to get off his chest. The very least thinks his entering would influence put into work. Totally. But I still think there is the ability to write where your politics are only that, and that's not One Piece. I don't think it is just the opinions of an adult being inserted because he's an adult and is writing it. I think this is deeply intentional.
Okay, here's something that I think, and this is one of the reasons that I think that Oda decided to do this so deeply political. And this is one of the reasons that I think that he not only decided to do it political, he might not have even decided to do it political. I think he decided to do it historical. And I don't just mean World War II by any breadth of the imagination. I mean historical. He chose to use historical references, historical allusions, historical issues, and put them in here. And this is why I think so. So Osamu Tezuka, the creator of Astro Boy, I always forget to look up the quote, so I looked up the quote. This is what he said. My generation was suddenly drafted into a war and then devastated by defeat. We had lived in a happy-go-lucky paradise, and we didn't have any mental or psychological preparation for the shock of battle and defeat. If we had been more prepared, perhaps we wouldn't have been so bitter or broken. And so this is why he said that he ended up creating Astro Boy so that he could better prepare young readers for the challenges and harsh realities of life. And I've talked about this before because of his own traumatic experiences from World War II. And I think that somebody like Oda, who is clearly a freaking genius, who is clearly beyond the pale, the man has an incredible ability to write a story, but also is an amazing researcher and a known history buff. And I think that one of the reasons he did this story, and one of the reasons he got more and more deep into doing it when he called it a story for young boys and a story for young boys, and he just kept saying that, is because he believes that this is a story also of preparation. And he's actually teaching kids to give a shit about politics in an adventure way. And he's teaching kids to understand that there are things in this world that are pulling buttons, and then you have to live by what they do because they were either voted in or they took over. And he includes everyone's politics. And he lets people see politics from all over the world and the impact they have on every kind of freedom you could imagine. And I think it is a very intentional, very deliberate, very planned, very hidden and open thing that Oda has done to actually help kids swallow and understand political ideas before they grow up in a historical concept, so that when they grow up and they start finding these political things come up in their life, they're actually able to have some understanding them. I guarantee people who have read One Piece and who have enjoyed it have accidentally understood political ideas or historical aspects of politics better because they're like, oh, weirdly, that reminds me of this. And they're right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. Like, I don't think that this is propaganda, and I'll get to what I think it's propaganda for later. I think the politics, in my opinion, are not just a result of historical allegory, but I think the historical allegory is very intentional, and I think the politics are there for exactly that reason. I don't think he's lying when he says he wants it to be a story for young boys. I think you were right. He wants it to be a story about the world, a story that informs people about how dark the world can be, that gets them to question the
prepares
world
people
they're
to
in.
live in that world, prepares children to grow up and live in this world.
A world where maybe authority should sometimes be questioned, where you shouldn't just do what you're told, where you shouldn't assume that the way things are is the way they should be.
That there is a hidden agenda, that the government might not always be acting in your best interest, that you actually have to care about what's taking place. Hey, person with the name I will never pronounce.
Someone earlier just recently, just a moment ago, said that they get to write a 4-page essay about One Piece and its themes, and they're so excited. They've never been so excited to write a paper. That sounds so rad.
God dang, man. That is amazing. That is amazing. I was just saying the other day that Undead Unluck is short enough that I actually could do something with it in school.
Nice.
If I did something on One Piece, it would have to go the entire year long, and it would have to be a course outside the timeline.
Well, and it would have to be only like a piece of the story instead of even all year long. You couldn't do all of One Piece.
I could do it in the all the year long.
Jesus Christ! The poor kids have to read so much manga.
Yeah, get over it, kids. Start reading the manga.
But I think someone does bring up a good point, that like the point of it feels like when people were saying that Lord of the Rings was about World War One, it isn't. It is heavily influenced, but it's not about World War One. I don't know how you can look at it and say that it is about World War One fully, because there's so many things that just don't fit the vibes, like the narrative flow of that war. But I get it. How do you think we come away from our observations and we say our vibe check, analyzing all this and saying these things feel like they are approached from a political perspective instead of just a hand wavy or aesthetic perspective? How do we come to the conclusion that we think this meets the criteria we set out at the beginning, that this was written with the intention of being read politically, of having political messaging?
I just don't think that you can. I'm having trouble seeing how. Okay, I'm having trouble seeing how people don't see the politics in it. And I've asked a few different people, like, okay, are you the type of person who doesn't see any politics in One Piece? And they were like,
there's great analysts who don't, though. Like, there's YouTubers I respect who will be like, people read too much into it. It's great, well written, and thematically deep, but it's a silly pirate manga. Like, there's really good analyzers who seem to have this opinion.
Yeah, but okay. Do you want to hear me talk about something that we don't want to talk about?
Go for it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
So let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Okay. Oda and I come from the same generation.
You do. You love your generation because you need to, because no one else talks about them.
Nobody else knows our generation exists, so I'm the only one out here talking about it. Diddy was a huge big deal in my day.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's why we don't want to talk about it. Gotcha.
I don't want to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it. Diddy was a massive big deal in my day, and I don't think people understand what a big deal Diddy was. Tupac, Diddy, Eazy-E, all these people. Huge.
Hey, I just want to talk about, if we're going to do this won't make it into the video. I just found out, I've never felt more sympathy for Justin Bieber. I just found out he had a single that didn't catch on, that nobody really cared about, called Lost My Soul at a Diddy Party.
No, that isn't a single. People think that it's a fake, and that it was AI created.
Oh, that sucks. I heard it and was like, Jesus Christ, that's terrible. Okay,
yeah, no, it's a great fake.
I got really faked out. I guess I don't keep up with.
Don't worry about it.
Sorry
it's
for
okay.
Getting a lie, everybody.
I actually went deep down that hole to look it up because it was too well done. Then I was like, damn, that's amazing.
Oh, I hate that we can't trust that reality is reality anymore.
I don't know what to tell you. Reality is a fake. And so I went down this hole, and I've been going down this hole for a little while because Diddy was such a major player in the world that I grew up in, and he helped to shape and all sorts of performers that I really loved, and he helped to shape music. Something that I've been saying for a very long time, and I think it's very interesting. In case you didn't know, yeah, I'm definitely feminist, people. In case this shocks you,
and
if you're shocked and dismayed, take a really big.
Before people get to the comments to be like, but Oda's not American, so he might not be invested in this part of culture. Yeah, a lot of Japanese people. It has nothing to do with that. But I want to say something. A lot of Japanese people who aren't invested in hip hop, even though they're invested in other American culture. One of Oda's first paintings he did as a little promo thing was of Snoop Dogg. The man's a hip hop fan.
I remember. He does. And we all were, like, globally, one of the things that connected us globally as a generation was not just music, it was hip hop music. It was so different from anything that our parents had listened to. In the 70s, rap started, but it was so underground and it wasn't a thing that was really there. But in my time for Gen X, hip hop was the thing that really defined us as not being our parents. And so, and rap, hip hop and rap. And so for me, the thing that I actually found was interesting is I always talk about how people can't see that this is political, or how people can't see some of the lies that come out of Trump, and they say crazy things about it. And I'm like, how is this possible? And how is it possible that these people aren't seeing it?
Hey, is it possible to step back and reframe your point without referencing Trump specifically, just because I want this video specifically to appeal to right-wingers that are arguing it's not political?
Okay. If I step back, then how is it possible that people can't see some of the things that different political people believe or say? And how are people allowing them to be fooled? And why can't people hold their ideas lighter and be willing to be wrong about things? This is a thing I think in my head all the time. And I ask myself, how can I make people in my classroom, how can I make people be willing to open their mind and see things from lots of different angles? Okay. And then I talk about cognitive dissonance. And how when you hold a belief and you hold it really firmly, when somebody has an opposite belief in that area, it actually causes pain in your brain. And this is for a bunch of reasons. They're cultural and otherwise within each person. That cognitive dissonance is a really painful thing. And therefore, your brain will make workarounds so you don't think that. Okay, now let's get back to Diddy. When I started to see the people that were in this with Diddy, that did terrible things, and the names that are coming out, and all the stuff that was happening, and that somebody that I had really enjoyed as a writer and a producer, and have been impressed with the things that he's done with his world, when I started to see that things that came out, I immediately wanted to go into cognitive dissonance. I immediately wanted to be like, this is crap. The right wing are constantly pushing an agenda that everybody inside of Hollywood and the music industries are corrupt and and why do we have to do this? And then I immediately had to remind myself, you're doing the thing that you're always saying that people are doing. You actually have to trust the evidence. And you have to take a pause, and you have to do your own research, and you have to go on news channels, and you have to go through a bunch of different things, and then you have to sit in it, and you have to sit in the discomfort that you're having because of it, and you have to ask yourself if it is likely that anyone would lie about this, especially people that have been spending so much time getting the evidence in order to raid his home. And then when the people that have come out as being in his home started to come out, and I'm seeing people defending them to the end. Poor Diddy, this happens. People don't understand. He's just a bit of a freak. That's not true. I'd like to go there. It's not true. There's no way that this person isn't involved and this person is involved. These people are good men, blah, blah, blah. We're just spattering their name. I'm sorry, it's not true. And it was so incredible for me because it was one of the first times since I've been an adult where I've actually had to confront my cultural biases and my political biases and a bunch of other things. And it's uncomfortable, and I hate to admit it, but dear God, this is going to reach far. And these people that I had admiration for are actually monsters. And what a cognitive dissonance this has caused in my world. So when I'm looking at things like finding liberal ideas inside of manga that you enjoy, that when you come to it, you get to bring yourself as a child and you get to feel nostalgic and safe and happy. And you get to dive into something that gives you such pleasure where you don't have to bring in the bitterness of the world around you. That's when I realized why you could say to yourself, One Piece isn't political. Because you don't want it to be political and you want it to work within your system and follow your beliefs because it's a place where you find joy and happiness. Just like Diddy and his music and other people that he had were places that I found joy and happiness. And all the signs are there. The way that he talks about women, it's evil, it's dehumanizing, and people will be like, that's just how these songs are. And I fought against it for years and years with people when I talk about it. And I'm like, no, it's not just how these songs are. It's a way that makes people see somebody else as a thing and as an object and not a human being with personalities and hurts and worries, et cetera, et cetera. And so all the signs were there. They were right out there in public. in interviews, if you go back and start listening to interviews, he's saying the quiet part out loud, but we so want to believe what we think that we don't bother to question the truth of the other evil things that he says and whether or not he's telling on himself. And so then I said to myself, I think I know why people are able to read this manga and ignore the things that create cognitive dissonance for them and that disagree with their way of seeing the world.
I want to add on to this really quick to say, I got distracted by a comment. Never mind. I forgot. My brain broke there. I had a thing I was going to say. I'm pretty sure it was insightful. Keep going.
Anyways, I know that it's hard for people. I know that it's hard for me, but I can tell you that by the time you get to the place and with the things that he's being accused of, he is guilty. 4,000 million trillion %. There is no not if he is guilty. The people who have come into his home and his life aren't the people who come in when they think something might be bad. These are people who come in when they have a 90% ability of prosecuting. And so I have had an experience of mass cognitive dissonance that for the last 3 days, I have been wading through like a person wading through quicksand, which all people in Gen X thought was going to be a bigger problem when they grew up.
All media, boomers love to put quicksand and stuff. I think it's because they grew up
they just
on
love
like,
it.
Flash Gordon
As a
shit.
child, every cartoon had damn quicksand in it, and here I am without quicksand anywhere. Like I've been preparing for quicksand my whole life and never had to use any of my escape.
I think it's the boomers that did it. I think it's because they grew up on like adventure pulps.
I don't know, but all I know is no quicksand so far. And so I think it's really interesting because now that I've experienced
I stepped in quicksand once.
Oh, that's cool.
Now
that I've experienced my own cognitive dissonance in such a slap in the face, I actually get it now. I get why you can avoid the signs. I get why you could ignore what's there. And I get why you would just say you're overthinking it. And they're all there. I mean, there was a woman who for years has been saying this. Like, everything is there. But I just wasn't looking for that because it wasn't in my algorithm and it wasn't in my world because I just didn't dive down there. I just listened to music like a person who just didn't put on blinders and didn't feel like looking left or right and just felt like going through with the music.
Now the question becomes, if someone believes that left-wing politics are bad, they believe they're inherently evil, right? They believe they believe degeneracy is a threat. They believe that the idea of overthrowing the wealthy and distribution of wealth is going to destabilize society, etc. All the beliefs that could be seen as right-wing, right?
Yeah.
If someone left-wing, if someone believes all of those are evil and they are a fan of One Piece, to put that in your perspective, are you going to be able to enjoy Diddy's music as music? Now, obviously, political beliefs are different than evil, right? He is evil, not just political, but I think genuinely a lot of people who are leaning right do believe that left-wing politics are evil. They don't believe that it's just a disagreement we can have. Now, I also feel that way about some people who are on the right. Not all of them. I think there's some people who just don't want to pay higher taxes, etc. I think they're wrong, but not evil. I disagree.
That's very different.
But a lot of people do see left-wing politics as evil. And you enjoy Diddy's music.
Yeah, okay, so this is a really neat question, and I immediately went and put some on.
One Piece red potato. This is a One Piece metaphor.
Yeah, it's just a One Piece metaphor, dude. I immediately went and put some on. Too soon. Turns out too soon. It was like the time that I went to Germany right after finishing the history of World War II. Just a little too soon. And I'm going to come back, but here's an interesting thing. I ask this question all the time in philosophy because when we ask what is beauty, and then we go from what is beauty to what is good and what is evil. What is beauty? What is ugly? What is good? What is evil? Because we always refer to good as being beautiful and bad as being evil or bad as being ugly. We always do this in our society.
Yeah.
And so I do show them pictures of Hitler's work. Sassy boy, that's where I was going. I do show them pictures of Hitler's paintings, and then people later on are like, "Oh yeah, those are so nice." I just put them randomly with a bunch of other people's paintings, and I ask people what they think, and is there any painting here that stands out from you? And inevitably, there's always a few kids who really enjoy Hitler's paintings. And then I say, but that's Hitler's. And then they're like, oh God, no, now I hate it. And I'm like, but do you? Or do you still like the art? And then some people will be like, well, it's not that great. And people like to say really rude things because they think that they're art critics. They're like, well, the art critics didn't like it. And I'm like, there's lots of reasons. But I think Hitler's work may lack some finesse, but it's good art. It is. I don't care who you are.
It's not imaginative. And the perspective is off, but his use
lots
of
of
color
artists
is good.
don't make imaginative work. And P.S. he didn't get to go to art school.
The real issue he faces trying to do realism is that his perspective isn't good enough to sell it, but his color use is actually very skilled.
Is actually very strong. And so here's the question too, because Hitler, by the way, didn't go to art school because he wasn't allowed in.
He's better self-taught than I am.
And if he had gone to art school, it was possible that those are the things that probably would have been worked on like you don't go into art school perfect. So, but I found that it was different. I felt like listening to Diddy's music, felt like I was listening to Diddy's beliefs. And so I started to wonder, maybe if you are a right-wing person who believes that left-wing is evil, maybe if you believed that One Piece had a left agenda, you couldn't read it because you would feel like you were being indoctrinated, and you were being indoctrinated to something that you thought was evil, and therefore you could no longer enjoy it, and you would have to rage against the dying of the light to say that this was not political or especially not liberal. Like maybe you would, and maybe it's too soon, and maybe it will never be the time for Diddy again for me. But I'm telling you, I can't listen to it now. I absolutely can't. And I don't know if I'm going to come across of being able to.
On my perspective, I mentioned 300 and Dark Knight Rises. Now, obviously, I have a bit more distance for these, and I went in able to decipher their political messages as I went. The Dark Knight Rises sees rehabilitative justice as a joke, thinks that evil people are inherently evil, believes in capital punishment, thinks that you're weak if you don't kill, thinks that the system is incompetent and must be overthrown by the force of violence of those with good agendas to face against degeneracy, thinks that the degenerates are evil and they truly want to corrupt and destroy society. He'd be Frank Miller, as his personality was in the writing of those comics, would be marching people to the camps. This is a man who would be Hitler's strongest soldier. I genuinely can still enjoy the story. I think he's pure evil. I think his politics are genuinely evil. I think the man doesn't think he's evil. I think he believes all of his beliefs are for the betterment of society. But I do think he would do actions that I think are evil. I do still think it's a good story.
That's interesting because that's a very, very interesting thing, because people talk all the time about how they cannot read J.K. Rowling anymore. They can't read the Harry Potter series anymore. And people talk all the time about like R. Kelly is another person that you can't enjoy. Oh, thank you. Could I get a drink as well? I love you. Your father just literally brought me a croissant, which is really the greatest way of telling someone you love them. Especially from a bakery. So I don't know, because do you know the book Ender's Game? Turned into a movie there for a while as well.
I'm aware of it. I never read it. I know the gist.
Well, the dude who wrote it, I love Ender's Game. Ender's Game is an incredible series. Ender's Game is good.
Yeah.
But the series is absolutely spot on. And yet, the author, not a very good person. Let me just do this. Sorry. So, Orson Scott Card is an anti-Semitic.
Not great. Not a good start.
And he has made some wild-ass statements expressing anti-Semitic views, and he is also an anti-LGBTQ.
Not great. Bad follow-up.
He is an anti lots of stuff, and I had read all of his books a while back and had thought like he basically frickin' invented the internet. He calls it the webs. He had it out before the internet existed, and he is brilliant as a person. And yet, I found that out, and I had to be like, does this change everything that I've read about Ender's Game?
Mhm.
Right? And I still love the story so much, and yet I hate the person
Mhm.
so much. So yeah, then I started to question what part of Ender's Game is seeped into me. Are there anti-Semitic views in here? And when I look back on it, do I think this? And then I realized something that was really interesting for me is that any views that he put in that were political in a certain way, that instead I allowed my mind to reframe them and see them through my own viewpoint, which is just another one of those confirmation bias things. H.P. Lovecraft is another one. You listen to him as your method of sleeping.
I'm a big fan of the writings of H.P. Lovecraft, and the man was a monster.
Exactly.
He was so racist. People are like, but you got to think of the times. Guys, people are saying you got to think about the times. Are you aware that H.P. Lovecraft was so racist that his writing group in his times kicked him out and said, learn to be less racist or we're not letting you back in?
Yeah, that's pretty bad. You're in a bad space in that case.
You can't use the times to defend a guy whose friends were like,
when the times themselves were like, screw you, jerk.
Hey, bud, can you chill it a bit, please?
Your racism back in these days is too much for us.
But I want to explain why I am fine reading H.P. Lovecraft's works and I'm fine enjoying The Dark Knight Rises. And it's because if you are aware of the politics, why are you afraid? Imaginary right-winger who probably clicked off this video 30 seconds in, why are you afraid of One Piece disagreeing with you? Do you think you're going to be convinced? Well, if you don't want to be, read it consciously. Having a subconscious politic in media means it can affect you if you ignore it.
Exactly.
Genuinely, when I read The Dark Knight Rises, when I watch 300, I look at the elements that are to me fascist, to the elements that seem as though they are promoting what I would call an evil philosophy, and I acknowledge them consciously. I think,
exactly.
This person believes this way about the world and the needs of society. I disagree. The conscious,
and that's what I've got to with Ender's Game now.
Powerful.
Yeah. I've decided I've decided that I read Ender's Game now, and I've gone through the series and I've read it again, and I've read it with a lot of awareness.
I've heard the first one's the best one, that the rest are okay, but it kind of never gets as good as the first one again.
Wrong. The book is incredible. The first one is bubblegum. The people who read it love it because it's very approachable. The other ones actually require you to go quite deeply into them. They're very, very deep. They're very, very fascinating. They're amazing. The whole series is incredible, but once you find out what he believes, you can see what he was actually trying to say. And then I read it now consciously aware of what he was trying to make analogies towards, and I just be aware of it. Having said that, I wouldn't recommend it to somebody who wasn't a conscious reader.
Yeah, because there are those themes there, and it's really easy to see them.
No, it's really easy to manipulate. And he does a beautiful job of manipulating perspective. And if you weren't a very aware reader, if you didn't have a lot of media literacy, you would see his incredible ideas that he puts in and the persuading way that he does them, and you would be like, I see that. These groups are problematic. I understand why they did this. But on the same time, he has such major empathy for this group that were quote unquote evil. And then he talks about how wrong it is just to get rid of a group just because you don't like that group or it thinks differently than you. So it's so confusing.
I need to take something on because Roxanne said something, and I don't think, Roxanne, you are I'm about to say something blatant, and I want you to know that I'm not coming at you. Roxanne, I think your statement is 1,000% wrong. It's as wrong as possible. And I think it's correct that that's how people think. You are correct that people think that way, but the framing behind it is so incorrect. The idea that the reason we can't acknowledge politics.
First of all, I'm going to ask you to be nice to my Roxanne.
Roxanne, I think was saying it in the way that they're saying people think this way, and that's correct.
Okay.
But the thought behind it is entirely wrong.
I'll fight you. I'll fight you if you hurt Roxanne's feelings.
And what they're saying is that if you are capable of enjoying work that you acknowledge the politics are opposed to yours, what does that say about you? Does it say that you're wrong? Does it say that you're acknowledging you're wrong? And here's what I'm going to tell you, and this is amazing. This is going to liberate all of you. This is going to liberate everyone to enjoy freely. The media you engage with, the media you like, says literally nothing about you. Your personality is not a movie you like. Your humanity is not a TV show you watch. You are a complex, layered, multifaceted creature. You are an event, a being that takes in the world around you and processes it into a person, an entity that has never existed and could, without your intervention, never exist. You are a wonderful, unique specimen of existence, the universe seeing itself. And the films you watch and take in are just part of shaping your perspective and coming to know the world better, to be a better view. That's all the media is. It's training, it's learning, it's thinking. And if you're actively engaging with something you disagree with, that's a better learning to me. You can be learning the perspective of another person, of someone who sees the world from an entirely different perspective. Isn't that incredible?
And that is why I would only give a book like Ender's Game or any of them to somebody if I then said, this is a view that this person has.
Sorry for saying you're wrong, Roxanne. You are right. Yeah.
This is a view that this person has. This is how they feel about the world. While you're reading this book, I want you to remember that that's their thinking. This doesn't change who you are, but you should be aware of perspectives.
We're also going to be real.
Obviously, books and stuff don't define who you are, because I watch the same 4 comfort anxiety movies when I'm feeling...
but they aren't who you are. That's not you.
But they don't define me.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, is anyone else here going to be like, Mama's a moron because every time she has a lot of anxiety, she goes and watches Mr. and Mrs. Smith Under the Tuscan Sun, Legally Blonde,
If you think there's
and Heathers, and Heathers.
Sorry for saying you're wrong, Roxanne. I meant the opinion you were representing. I said it badly. Don't worry.
Yeah, well, I will fight you.
You should. I said it badly.
You know that Roxanne has gone back to every single, I checked, every single one of our videos and has wrote, hey, y'all.
That's amazing.
Or this is nice, y'all.
That's so good. That's so good.
Yeah, that's the spy movie, Brown Sugar. It's an embarrassing thing. It's also where somebody stole somebody else's husband. Although you can't really steal somebody if they don't want to be there. They're not going to be.
You would love Spy Family.
See, I would, because I love Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I think it's a well done movie and my anxiety loves it.
Yeah, deeply interrogate media. Think about it. Question what you're consuming. Understand if it disagrees with you, but try not to be unaware. Take in the politics. Look,
but you know what? I think that's the problem. Is we're talking about, is One Piece political? And the answer is shit. Yeah, One Piece is political. And I'm sorry that's hard on you. And I also would argue, I think so far, and I only mean so far.
Yeah.
Because I'm not all the way there. I'm making my choice yet.
Yeah.
That One Piece is an anarchism and libertarian socialism.
Yes. But when you say the word libertarian and socialism, neither of those words mean the way we use them. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, they're very different than people would use them. And I'm sorry if that upsets you. But if it does upset you, just be aware that we're possibly right, and just give a read.
Hey, but guess what? We're also possibly wrong. As someone said in the chat earlier, the media you consume doesn't define who you are. It isn't part of you. It's not your personality, but your opinion does. Form an intelligent opinion. Think about what you watch. Be part of the process. I am fully of the opinion that art is not complete until it is consumed. That the act of engaging, the act of being an audience member is the completion of artwork. Be part of that completion of the artwork. Think, debate, discuss, analyze, break down. When someone says overanalysis is a problem, it can be if you get lost in it, but it's analysis to begin with is part of media. It's part of what the story's there for.
I have read parts of Mein Kampf, Dr. Jack. I have not read the full Mein Kampf. I own it. I only have had trouble reading it. I know what it is. I know what it's about. I've probably read it actually all, now that I think about it, just in bits and pieces with all the researching and the reading I've done. I just find that I hate going into the rabbit hole of being inside of somebody's mind that I dislike so much for so long. And so that's been my problem, is that I tell myself I'm going to read it bits and pieces at a time, and I don't come back to it because I hate it. And then I realized, I'm going to say a thing to piss people off now, that just like Anna Karenina, I don't have to read things that I don't think are very good. Oh yeah, that's what I said.
Let's also, I'm also going to say something. I have not read Mein Kampf either and have no intention to. I do want to read things by people I disagree with more, and that's something I'm going to start. But if I'm going to do that, I'm going to pick someone who's competent and intelligent and evil, like Henry Kissinger. I'm not going to pick that dumbass. Look, if I want intelligent evil, I'll just pick Kissinger. He was effective and good at what he did.
Intelligent evil. Right
yeah,
now,
I mean, he is.
Wait, they're
say
not
Kissinger
wrong.
Doesn't good at what he did?
Excuse me, Drawk. I don't like Garp's chin or eyes very much.
I'm looking at reference. His chin's got a weird shape.
Also, his eyes are too close together, even if it's perspective.
Although, no, his chin is actually messed up. It's really like this.
Although, actually, I'm in love with Dragon, and I need you to know that.
His eyes are not too close together. I'm looking at the reference. They are closer together in the reference. It's crazy.
I hate
his
it.
His face is
Make
insane.
It bigger.
I did get the jaw wrong, though. I did get the chin wrong.
Yeah, I hate it.
He has tiny little weird eyes.
But I am tired. For real. That's amazing.
Look, everyone should be glad Kissinger's
missing?
Dead.
We're missing chocolate rooms, like in the day when people would go and discuss big philosophical ideas by sitting in a nice warm room with cups of hot chocolate and arguing about things together. We're missing that shit. Like, our society is so ripped off in the way that we don't go to a bustling pub that doesn't have a bunch of loud music, and we actually get to sit down and bounce ideas off each other. And I know the internet can have its own kind of like room, blah, 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 but I want facial expressions. I want the smell of the room. I want to have, I might start a club.
Well, okay. The issue that we have with that is the same reason we have the issue that almost none of the right wingers I want the video to be for are going to watch it all the way through, which
that happened, noob.
We have, I think of like 10, 15 years ago, media like this, someone from the right could watch and enjoy, and I think some people will, and I'm so glad they will. This part will be edited out. But I think one of the big issues genuinely is that the current arguments are not, I think this is the right way for society to run well. This is how I think society should run well. I genuinely do believe that the predominant opinion on the right is that the other guys are evil and will kill us. And because of that belief, it is accurate to say, hey, the other guys are the bad guys if you're a liberal or a leftist right now. Now, do I think that's always the case? No, and that tribalism is always there. And there's always some people who are like, they're the bad guys and they're going to kill us. But I genuinely think that they are monsters has become a normal train of thought for the right wing in most countries. Not every country, most countries.
Yeah.
And it's not everybody who thinks that way, obviously. Lots of people don't, but I think that's a common enough viewpoint that it's really difficult at this point, you know? Like, I watch a lot of people who dissect right-wing media, and a lot of right-wing media used to be, like, even just 5 years ago, even just 3 years ago, people would make an argument, and I would think, hey, your argument is, Stasi boy, that is not mostly from the left, and I'm telling you, you are not seeing right-wing media. They literally tried to do a coup, Stasi. That's literally... Anyways, I keep up with a lot of right-wing media. I watch things that talk about it. It's something I like to be informed about. And a lot of what I see right now...
I have a right-wing media account, you know.
Oh,
it's my shadow account.
Okay. A lot of what I see right now on right-wing media is, instead of people trying to make an argument and be like, hey, this is my perspective, this is why we need to do this policy, most of what I'm seeing now is just mindless screaming of buzzwords. And it's not like that wasn't a part of all political media before, but there really isn't coherent narratives behind it anymore either. Like, it is different. I promise it's different in a way that I find a little bit scary.
Oh, I've watched the world change into a very interesting place. We did used to have these conversations. My grandparents were social credits, and social credit was a political party that was so right-wing it was not even, there was no word for this actually, how right-wing it was. And yet now, they would look very centrist.
Yeah.
So, just like mind-boggling how far we have changed and how we. I don't think it's wrong to have differing opinions. I think it's wrong to have a gulf in the middle where there's nobody or there's no thoughts that we can have together, like that we can't agree on freedom of choice over your own body for all genders or stuff
Actually,
like that. That's no longer a middle thought. Now that's extremism.
Actually, Stasi,
That's wild.
Let me. This goes back. Fragrant word use of Nazi and racist by the left to demonize the moderate and right. Well, the left isn't demonizing moderates.
Nope.
Stasi.
No one is.
Stasi. They're
no
using
one
Nazi
is doing
for a
that.
reason. Nick Fuentes is an out-and-out Nazi who dined with Trump. I don't think Trump is an ideological Nazi, but there are real Nazis in positions of power and influence in the United States. A woman who talked about a Jewish space laser is a U.S. congresswoman. Like, I agree. Leftists overused the word Nazi before this point. They made it meaningless.
And
They
fascist.
called everyone a Nazi. And fascist. But genuinely, we are at a point where there are Nazis dining with presidents. Like, we are no... Ron DeSantis had an out-and-out Nazi as one of his main campaign managers. Now, we don't know if DeSantis is a Nazi, but there was a Nazi who was running his campaign for a while. Like...
And that's not good. It's not good.
Yes, the left were alarmist assholes who have ruined the word fascist and Nazi to the point that they mean nothing. True.
The extreme left.
The extreme left, yes. However, when people call people Nazis now, there are a lot of Nazis in positions of power in the United States government.
Might I say way more than there should be?
Yes, I will say the correct number of Nazis in government is 0.
Yes, I would also say that. I'd say that is a fair number.
Product 2025 isn't just buzzwords. There's more to it. Now, it's not as bad as people say it is.
That's not just buzzword. I've had to force myself to read that, and that was unpleasant.
It's not as bad as a lot of people say it is. The one document that was like, it's going to do all these things. No,
saying
the
that
one
you can
document
take
that said
away and
it will do all these things is a lie. It doesn't. I looked at the sections. They're not there.
The section talking about whether or not people are naturalized Americans if they were born in the United States is real.
And that's terrifying.
They can say that even though you were born in the United States, when Project 2025 comes in, they can say you are not a natural American.
Real politics, because I think we're about done the convo. We'll do an ending bit.
No, I want to tell people something historically that is not a sad and disturbing thing.
Can I take one last detour to tell people a thing before you do that?
Drawk, you're boring me.
Oh, I don't have to.
All right, do it, but it better be interesting.
Well, this is to Stasi Boy because something he said, because it goes to what I said earlier. The fact that like fascists won't say they're fascists, so you have to read between the lines. This is kind of true. So when you say you don't see the right saying these things and you see the left saying them, that's real. The left will say you're monsters and you're threats. Whereas there's not, fascists aren't going to be blunt about what they're doing, but it is happening. And you have to use a little bit of analysis to really take a look. If someone says we're going to eradicate transgenderism, what does that mean? There's kind of only two ways to do that: to make being transgender illegal so that people are forced out of that identity, or to kill transgenders. When people say it'll be the largest deportation in history, that just necessitates camps. There just isn't another way to do it. No country's been able to deport millions of people without using camps. When people say these people are animals, they are motivating hate. When people go up on stage and say these horrible people are eating your pets and someone needs to stop it, that's meant to incite violence. Now, you might say, okay, but they're not doing it directly. Well, we all agree Hitler was bad. He's the default bad guy. We're going to say he's bad. Hitler didn't really do that much directly at first. He incited the brown shirts to do it for him. So you really do need to carefully analyze what people are saying for political analysis.
Also, they are just saying it. I mean, Trump's name for Kamala is Comrade Kamala.
Yeah. Oh, no, Stasi Boy, I don't think you do. But I fully understand why, if you're not reading between the lines, it does actually at a glance look like the left are the more alarmist right now. They have been in the past. Usually they are.
I don't think it does, because I have a right-wing account. And trust me when I tell you, there is some alarmist shit going in there. Okay.
Okay, let's get back to One Piece. This part got edited out.
You need to leave me alone.
Yeah.
All right, you remember? Here we go.
Yes.
So when I was talking about it, the thing that I'm talking about are the salons of the Café Philosophique in the 17th and 18th century. These are places that people would get together. They were in France. I don't know if you could tell that by the way I said philosophique. And people would literally have hot chocolate, sometimes tea. Chocolate was more expensive. Remember, we're living in a world where chocolate was, not as easy to get. And then they would debate, and it was a political social hub where people could come and they would just exchange ideas and sit around. And apparently it caught on so much that they started to do these things in salons, which we now call living rooms. And people would host little parties in their house where people would get together and they would come and talk about politics and art and philosophy and have like amazing conversations with each other where they disagreed and agreed. And I think that's missing, because even as a kid, I can remember at different parties, we would actually like get together with our friends and sit in a living room and have a bottle of wine or a bunch of beer and chit chat about philosophy, politics, and it was so much better to look somebody in the face. It's harder to be a dick when you're looking at somebody's face and being a dick than it is on the internet. It just is. That's a fact. Mm-hmm. And so you have to have a more respectful way. And remember, I'm going to have to look at this person's face again, and I'm going to have to try to be less of a dick. Try to be less of a dick. It's a great name for the club. I'm gonna have to shorten it, I think. But I think I want to start a club.
Okay. I mean, that idea is part of why I want to do videos like this, where we can talk about politics through One Piece, because it's meant to be political. And I think like 10 years ago or so, it'd be a lot easier to be like, hey, let's politically talk about One Piece and have it be chill. And things are so heated that it feels like this big violent undertaking to insert politics into fun pirate manga. But I think it's worth taking on. I think it's worth adding that to the discourse and being willing to talk about it, because I genuinely, while some people disagree, yes, it is a brilliant story without politics. Sorry.
Look at Dickless Club.
Some people disagree. But you can enjoy One Piece as a story without politics. I still think it's worth acknowledging. Again, it goes against the ethos of this episode. The ethos of this episode is, how do you analyze if media is political? And I can't be doing that if I fall back on One Piece has a goddamn framed picture of Che Guevara in his office. But he does.
So what you just did is really, really walking the line of jerkdom.
I'm not trying to. Here's what I'm saying. That doesn't help you with identifying politics and media, but I think a lot of what we talked about did. The fact that if you just talk about things as an aesthetic, sure, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but that if you're deeply analyzing the meaning of things like freedom and leadership, and you're talking about the validity of those, the forces that stop them, if you're talking about the material forces of the bad guys, the pressures put upon them, all of that makes something a lot more political than if all of that was hand wavy, that if the author didn't care about all of that, right? I think
the reason that I can say that it's political comfortably is because the author doesn't leave unfinished business where he doesn't wrap up his ideas about political things. He continues to use them. He uses the same paradigm that he creates in the beginning, and he talks about them, and we see the political change happen over time. We see the impact it has on people. That is a political thing. He doesn't just talk about the politics. He shows its impact on the populace in One Piece and in the world that is being created. He understands his setting, and he shows you what happens to all the people that you've grown to love. He makes you love them, and then he shows you how they're impacted by politics. And
absolutely.
You can tell that's political because the author cares enough about the people and forces you to care enough about the people that he creates rich people. Now, he wouldn't go and hurt them then when he loves the people that he created and show it being bad, unless he really wanted to send you a political message.
I think you still could create stakes in a story, but the specific way he's doing it, where it's showing how the system is harming people, not just how people are hurting people, is so different. If you just showed it to set up a bad guy, it's really different than showing about the problems of the system. Yeah.
Now, did you see some of the most ridiculous names that have ever come out of a group of people? The Dickwish Club?
They really wanted you to have Dick in the name of your club.
I need a name, guys, but I don't think I can call it the Dickwish. What kind of people do you think I'm going to get in my club? Like, keep in mind, I can't
Trans
advertise a
men.
club called the Dick Wish. That is not a thing I can do.
You're gonna get trans men.
The Dick Wish?
Yeah, they wish for a dick.
I don't know. If I was a trans person, I wouldn't be like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to that weird ass club that's willing to put that weird ass name out in public.
I just made a funny joke.
It's not bad, but it's not great.
I think it's a good.
We need a better.
People
No,
don't like
look
my
at
joke.
everyone is giving you the backwards
People
face.
don't
That's
like
not
my
a good
joke.
sign about your joke. Your joke sucked, apparently. Sucked.
But I think those are fair points we brought up. That, like, it really is the consideration for these things that makes it feel like the politics are intentional.
Oh, they absolutely. You can't say that the Chocolate Conspirators is really good. Kaido is killing this. You can't say that a person who puts this much attention to details doesn't intentionally make the politics. They don't just accidentally frickin' happen. This is a very intentional writer. And so if there are politics in here, and there are politics in here, they aren't just the afterthought or the necessity of creating a story with that political piece.
Mm-hmm.
They're thoughtful, they're intentional.
And what you do from there, because if you are a liberal or right wing or a moderate, the politics of One Piece are probably going to disagree with you in a lot of places, because we'll get into it further. I agree with you that the closest things to the political ideology of One Piece I know of are anarchism and libertarian socialism. That's the word I was looking for. Fuck my. Anyways, so if you are not fairly left-leaning, the politics of One Piece are probably going to disagree with you. Where do you go from there? Are you able to enjoy the series? And as I said earlier, I think yes. I think you just have to come in looking at it through a critical lens, actively analyzing where you disagree and agree with the author's points. And you can enjoy the story while doing that. It doesn't get rid of the story.
Can I just say that you don't have to? You can just read it. But can I also just say that if you're a right-wing person, that's probably something that would make Oda really happy, is if you just read it, because then it would have some influence on your thinking without you knowing.
Someone is saying, I think at best an argument you could see is that it's a non-political story taking place in a political world. I don't see that as necessarily possible, but saying that it ends in an apolitical way is possible. I think that's very possible. And I think that would just be a story that's more interested in being descriptive than prescriptive. And what that means is it would be a story that wants to point out political issues in the world, but it just wants to explore their complexities. And it's not trying to prescribe a solution. It's not telling you what to do to change the world. It's just introducing you to political complexities. And there's a chance that's how One Piece will end. I don't know that that's not how it'll end. I just don't think that's how it'll end.
Drawk, I still don't like his chin.
I'm looking at reference. The man's got a brick of a chin.
Drawk, can I just put a little aside here? I don't like his face.
Arp looks like that. I'm looking at old reference though. They changed his face a lot over the years.
Oh my god, we need to do this. The Cocoa Coalition, the Chocolate Conspirators, the Cocoa Republic, the Cocoa Banana Republic.
Thanks for subbing.
Thank you, Jim the Assassin. Oh no, Red Potato. Red Potato, I get to do this one. You did the last one. What do you think? The Philosopher's Nightmare? Ooh. The Brunch Bunch? The Brunch Club. Ooh, the Brunch Brunch. The Brunch Club. The Brunch Bunch. Gosh. I'm going to make the Cocoa Conspirators. I love this! Hi there, YouTube. It's me, Mama Drawk. I'm going to make a club. I don't know what it's going to be called, but how these people have created the greatest names in the history of ever. There's about 1 million. It's the Cocoa Coalition, the Cocoa Conspirators. It's going to be great.
It's a
You're going to love
for
it.
Your club.
It's a plug for club. You don't live here, so you can't be a part of it. It's going to be impossible. You can't sit here and look at me, but you're going to love the club even though you're not in it. I'm so glad you're here and watching this. I know that we're talking about, is One Piece political? And then, we're saying, yeah. But we tried to come at it from a more even way and discovered, a little more challenging than we thought to argue on either side. But if you enjoy listening to Drawk and I bother each other, having the inserts of our mad thoughts as we ramble off in different directions about One Piece, if you don't agree with this and you love not agreeing out loud, that's cool. Do it. Subscribe. Subscribe because you want Drawk to do more to Garp's face. Subscribe because you like subscribing. If you want to, come run along with us and join the Patreons. Those are the people who pay for the editors to do things. We're going to start having conversations with other YouTube creators. We are almost at 20,000. I have gotten Drawk the world's greatest outfit. I actually can't wait to see you wear Luffy's ear.
Yeah, I've been doing my diet and exercise so that I can wear the open shirt.
I cannot wait for you to wear his wig. Anyway, and then we're going to start inviting other people to come along, and we're going to ask if you know of any people. Don't say the same people. Don't just say the same people. We know who you want to see us with, but we want some other people in the One Piece world. There's got to be other people. And we want to have conversations.
We know Murph, we know Melon. We want to talk to Grand Line Review, god damn it. Nobody brings him up. I like him. Yeah. He's Australian.
I do like him too. I really like him. So we want to talk to some people, make some suggestions. That was me trying to do some and suggestions together. And then we're going to ask them what is their favorite arc. We're going to have them come on in and do their favorite arc with us. And we're going to analyze it with them. And I think that's going to be the most fun thing in the history of ever. Also, Drawk has a new channel. It's where he does his RPGs. And it's a whole new channel. It's still Drawk. What's it called, Drawk?
Called Drawk Show RPGs.
There you go. That's a really complicated name. It's going to be hard for you to remember,
hard to figure out.
Give it your best shot. It is where, because he has been building his game and having other conversations in the RPG world. That is where you will find all that content. It is awesome. It is great. Go there.
Do it.
Do it. Do it. Then other thing we wanted to talk about, if you want to send us any mail, you go to this address, which the people are putting over Garp's face because I don't like Garp's face. So make sure the address is bright and covers his whole head. But look at Dragon. May I just say that Dragon and Luffy are two of my very favorite things, especially Dragon here. Damn, that's good stuff. And then we will open that on our Patreon. What's our next Patreon movie?
Our next one's Stampede, which we should do soon because
let's do it this week.
Yeah.
But just so you know, I'm disappointed it isn't the one I want it to be.
It's Film Red will be the final film we do, and it's next week. It's next month.
I want to watch Film Red.
It'll be October.
And the next one is come join us for Undead Unluck. We do Undead Unluck talks. We had Jackie, the voice of Fuko from the anime, on one of our Twitches come to see us when we were doing Undead Unluck. Seriously, I have no words for how cool that was.
Undead Unluck, join the book club. This series kicks ass. It's being
so good.
Disney has apparently criminally under-advertised the anime to the point that it might not get another season, which is...
Holy shit, are you kidding me?
That's a crime. We need
that's actually
people
a crime.
to come there. Please watch Undead Unluck.
I love Undead Unluck. I don't understand why it's not on everybody's wish list of reading. Like, it's so good. It's so unique. And it has so much One Piece coding in it. Like, it boggles the mind to me that people aren't reading this all over the place. Mm-hmm. And apparently the anime for it is brilliant. We're not watching it yet because we have to read first because we are both doing analysis of it. We were going in blind. And in the first 30 chapters, we were like, it's okay. And then we started reading more, and both of us were like, damn, this is amazing. So join us for Undead Unluck. I don't have anything unhinged to say.
That's
Do you
fine.
want me
Sometimes
to just come up with an unhinged word? Do you need me to be unhinged?
I think sometimes hinges are allowed.
Oh, God, this is a really hinged one, though. I feel uncomfortable about it. So here we go. Parachute pickle. That's all. Have a good day. You have to do that, Drawk. You have to.
Can anyone guess why this is what I chose to draw for today's stream? It's pretty tough to figure out. Hey, Jackson, thank you. Someone wants Bellamy to have a drink. Bellamy is a dog. I'm muting.
Did you just mute it? You're muted. You just keep talking after you muted him. What are we doing? Where's Bellamy? Oh, to babies. Oh, yeah. Yes. Blackberry Witch for the win.
Yeah. I think this is important to point out because these characters represent the political ideals of One Piece, and I think genuinely go to show that the series is political. In one family, you have these different perspectives on the way the world should be.
It's so cool. And then, of course, behind them, you can't see it because they're a shadow, is the shadow government.
He's doing the sluck.
The shadow government.
Doing the suck, the shadow government is.
Why did you say doing the suck? What is it a reference to?
Because he got a crazy straw.
Yeah, but doing the suck?
It's
I didn't
way
understand
people phrase things all the time whenever someone slurps anything because it's funny.
Oh, really? I didn't know. All I saw is doing the suck, and I was like, what is this kid on about, man? What is this weird kid on about? You're supposed to pet the boy, and your dog cam is on, and we can't see your face. Honestly, your dog is so cute. I'm okay with that.
He's a good boy.
He's a good baby.
He's a good boy.
I had a Stazzy boy. You want to know why? Because people were like, Mama, have you read Journey to the West? Mama, have you read Journey to the West? Mama, have you read Journey to the West?
Yeah.
Not only did I also watched a bazillion videos.
I think we gotta find a way to end this. We gotta have an in conclusion, you know?
Did you really, Stazzy? Mama, have you read any of the current No. You know what I did this weekend? You're a teach, Mama. You got to keep up with the slang. That's not slang. If Drawk is saying it, it's old. Trust me when I tell you.
I'm so behind in slang, y'all. It's fine.
Drawk is old, y'all. If you over 18, you don't know the slang. I work at a high school.
If you're over about 21, chances are by the time you're using slang, it has become lame enough that
your
kids are avoiding
dead,
it.
Dude. The only one who knows slang better than me here is no one. Why? Because I work in a high school. I hear the slang as it changes. I am the slang master.
I ain't no shit. What I do know is the Zoomers had better slang than millennials. They won that one.
Zoomers have some good slang.
Zoomers beat us.
Everyone being like, oh, they're both skiddity beep bop. First of all, no one ever said that crap. Just don't. You look dumb. And then people were like, they just say such weird things. And I'm like, yeah, like the teenagers before me who said totally tubular. Come on. People always say weird things. That's what we do. Part of being a teenager. We love it.
The best, your internet was better. The internet has gotten worse.
Yeah. We used to have great internet. Do you know that when Drawk was first born and we were at a university, we had direct connect to internet to the university, and I would put in things like full dances for Mushnik and Son, and I would get like a club of people who would be like, we have a million ideas. Do you want us to email all of this for free to you? The internet was literally a place you went where people would send you so much free shit about stuff you needed.
Better. It could be a little better.
You can't do a delete your art this late, can you? Did somebody do a delete your art?
They did, so I guess I'll delete the eye.
Or the face!
I'm not getting rid of the entire face.
I too feels absolutely let down. People, don't forget that I'm starting the Mama Drawk book club.
Well, we're doing closing segments. I can't redo it that much. I have to think
in the
about
Mama
the time.
Drawk book club, we are doing Witch Hat Atelier. We are starting. We're going to meet for first little meet on the 1st. Kaito already made me my room of joy inside of Discord, and we're going to decide how many pages we're going to read on that first day. So the first meeting is just short. We're going to come in, decide how many pages we're reading, make a reminder to everyone that we are going to be meeting in there, and then that is where we're going to go to have a book chat. You know what is so good? Oh, that's actually better already by his eye looking over there. You know what is so good about having a book chat of Witch Hat Atelier? That's October 1st. When? What time? Well, let's find out what day of the week October 31st is.
And I'm not allowed to join this, right?
The best part about it is you can't come.
And we'll do streams about it where I start reading after you and your book chat have gotten far.
It's going to be amazing. We're going to be ahead of him, and then we're going to do a stream about Witch Hat Atelier. Oh, it's a Tuesday? A Tuesday. I know somebody who says Tuesday, and I want to punch them in the nose. Yeah.
Now, is it because of that or other reasons?
No, they're a really good person. Like, really good. Just, it's Nolan.
Oh.
And I think that's a good human.
You do.
But he says,
how could he betray you like this?
He says Tuesday, Drawk. He says
how could he do that to you?
Thank you. If it is a Tuesday, October 1st, which it is, Then I think that we will. I don't have duties of buses that day, so I think that we can meet 4:30 or let's do 5. 5:30 it is. 5. I don't know what's a better time for people so they can get there in time on Tuesday.
Dude, I'm not part of it. Remember?
I can get home by 4:00. Let's do it 4:00 then. 4:00 Pacific time. I'll make an announcement.
Specifically.
Actually, I don't know how to make an announcement. Kaido, can you please make an announcement that we're going to meet at 4:00 Pacific time? Oh, thank you. That'll be amazing. Do you know that while we were on here today, I made a necklace? I don't want to brag, but I don't have a choice.
You're just like that pirate from that one story you've been reading.
Oh my god, yeah, it's One Piece. Have you heard about it? The kid sits on the beach making mostly bracelets. I lied. I thought it was earrings. I looked back. It's mostly bracelets.
All right, let's finish this off.
Thank you,
all right,
Replicator.
let's finish this off.
Are we doing drip?
What? Why would we what? That's not this kind of video.
That's why I said it. Thank you, Red. Oh god.
Okay.
Okay. I'm ready. Sorry, I'm done now.
Okay. Y'all, thanks for being here. I think it's tough to say because we came
Oh,
in
you can't do this. It's ads, and you can't say goodbye to people in ads. I won't have it.
Okay, but we were saying goodbye to you. Okay, we'll say it all. We'll delay.
I won't have it. Can I talk about can we do a tier of what we think is our because this is how I think we should end it. And and I'm cute and I'm really into this manga called One Piece where they build bracelets.
Jesus fucking Christ. Okay.
So I think we should say which our favorite political arc is. For political reasons, not arc reasons. If we were to say which is the best political arc today.
Ooh, there's a couple. There's like a few choices jumping around in my head. No, it's tough.
You might change it later, but you have to say it's your favorite.
Ad break over in 36 seconds, so I have that much time.
Oh, dude.
No. Here's what they're getting wrong. If they can't hear me probably. We specifically don't want to plan around our ad breaks because it breaks flow. Sub if you don't want to miss it. That's all.
What a jerk.
I got that advice from someone. I was told to by someone as advice, and I have gotten fewer complaints since we searched.
It's true because it does make the thing really honky. Yeah. If you do it that way. Like people are just like, he made it all hinkily pinkly and I hated it. I know mine. Okay. What's your favorite arc for its politics?
So favorite arc for its politics. I think my favorite arc for its politics is Whole Cake Island.
Really?
I think it's interesting that it took on modern liberalism and that it was so different its political take that we had Luffy inspire change in someone instead of just beat up and dethrone the ruler. That there is this implicit threat getting people to be in line, but that you can make all these interesting arguments about Whole Cake being better than most places. I think like it's really compellingly written to analyze from a political lens. I think it's fascinating. I had such a blast going over it with you.
Okay. I love that take. I think it's a really cool take. I would want to say Impel Down because have you ever heard about how I feel about Impel Down?
Yeah, it's your favorite. You love it.
I love it. I love me an Impel Down. But if I'm talking politics if I'm talking politics purely, I think my favorite arc is Sabayoti.
Oh, talking about the disparity of privilege and introducing the world nobles.
Yeah, and looking at shadow governments and looking at racism as a political tool, a bunch of things.
I think there's so many good choices.
There really is. I think that I could have a different favorite political arc every time. Like, absolutely, it's crazy how well it's done.
This will be edited out. If anyone wants something really controversial, I think we genuinely, if we keep following this path, at some point are going to need to do a video about Skypiea and Israel. If you thought this was controversial.
Oh God, I know. I've been thinking kind of about
Right?
that,
We
and
kind of have to, it feels like.
we are avoiding so many talks right now that we could get really crazily into that are so controversial. And if we wanted to
can see
be
it now, can't you? You're thinking about it now and you can see it now, can't you?
yeah, if we wanted to do a conversation next time or one of these times for politics, that really we might end up becoming the extreme
The political One
Drawk
Piece
show
YouTubers.
mum piece, the extreme political freaking straw hat.
I think you can see that we're not people who are injecting politics in everything, because we're reading Undead Unluck philosophically, because that's its themes. It's not trying to be political, it's trying to be philosophical.
Yeah, it really is. And it's quite beautiful. I'm pissed off everybody in the world isn't reading Undead Unluck now.
Being Jewish doesn't involve this conversation at all.
Why not? It does. It always does.
But an individual person being Jewish doesn't affect the conversation.
Oh, the conversation should be had.
Yeah.
But it always affects it. Your opinions when you're within a group matter.
True.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't go into the point I want to make until we get there, but yeah.
I know you can. But also,
I will say Jewish and
also, Red Potato, you matter as a human. That's
true.
Also, Red Potato, you're red and you're a potato. We should also talk about the Ukraine. All right, are you ready? We need to leave.
We need a conclusion. We need that part of the essay where we say, in conclusion.
No.
No? Okay, fine. Fuck.
Like, we kind of do, but we kind of don't, because we're going to do multi-political episodes, so we need it to be an open-ended conclusion. But this episode had a
thesis, and I think we need to acknowledge that thesis being completed.
Okay, well, I will do the freedom thesis, and you can do the leadership thesis.
Well, but I think the thesis we're addressing those were points in our essay. The thesis at the beginning was, we offered that if we wanted to try to prove that the series, what the criteria we set out on was to prove that One Piece was written with politics in mind, that it was an agenda of the author.
Yeah. Tickle is right. We just need a conclusion. It isn't a thesis. If you haven't done your thesis in the beginning, you're screwed. You're just restating it by now. But you're right. We tried to argue with each other, and we tried to say that it can One Piece not be read as a political piece where politics are a thing that happens. And right now, we are both in agreement that it doesn't feel possible that the politics are an afterthought, that the politics are the thread.
The politics don't feel incidental. They feel like they are a goal, but not in the way that the series is meant to just be about politics, but in the way that it's meant to take them seriously, make them part of a story, really acknowledge the influence politics have on the world. I think that's it. That because One Piece is a series about its setting, it has to take its politics seriously to be as good as it does. It has to have that be an intentional theme, intentional commentary.
And that when you have an author who's incredibly good at their job, like Goda, then you have to remind yourself that somebody with that level of ability isn't doing things accidentally. So read into it, try to pay attention to it. If you think that we're overanalyzing, then I would suggest to you, is it possible you're underanalyzing?
True. Like, audience engagement is a part of media. And have you considered that maybe you're not interrogating media? You're not thinking on it as hard as it might deserve? Because I'm going to tell you, when a man dedicates himself so dearly to the craft of writing a story that doctors need to advise him to relax as he gets into his now 27th year of spending the vast majority of his waking hours dedicated to a single story, maybe we do owe it to him to overthink this.
Okay, I would agree. And so now I think we can sign off using this person's legit thing.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone.
That's really good.
Don't just understand, overstand.
That's pretty good. That's pretty solid. Hey, everybody, check out Drawk RPG. It's a tiny channel. It needs your help. Early views and subs are worth way more than later ones once the channel's big.
Yeah. We had so much fun here today. I hope you had a lot of fun too. If we've pissed you off in any way, that's awesome. Congratulations. You got to feel something. That's the life, man. new, interesting, and varied experiences and getting pissed off. Well, congratulations, you're alive. It's like being scared. Woohoo! You know you're alive because you're mad.
Oh my
Okay.
god.
We'll talk to you soon.
We'll talk to you soon,
Drawk,
everybody. Yeah.
send us to a place. Thank you,
I'm trying to- did anyone have a
Patreons.
suggestion for
Let me
who we
do
should
this.
raid?
Drawk will send us to a place. Thank you, Patreons. We have only able to pay the editors because of your generous support.
That's
Thank
good.
you, everyone who came here to
Jay's
watch the
on.
show
Yeah,
today
Jay's cool.
and subscribed. Thank you, everyone who continues to follow us on this journey. Come along for Undead Unluck.
Please do. It's so good.
I just want everyone to read it. It's not for us. I want everyone to read it so that I get more story.
I want so many of our political takes, like our specific opinions, to be edited out of this, that when people watch the VOD after watching the edited video, it's a different experience.
They're like, oh my god,
What the
the
fuck?
hell?
Yeah,
What the
that's
hell
the
is
goal.
this shit?
Editor, that's the goal. I'm actually gonna send Lav the agenda for this one because it's gonna be
Bye,
a
everyone.
request heavy edit. Everybody, until next time.
Squish on squishies.
Been lovely talking to you.
Who are you sending us to? I don't see anyone
JD
here.
Legend.
Oh, there it is.
It's taken a second because I misclicked the first time, apparently.
JD Legend almost sounds like a person who has an insurance company. Join us at JD Legend. Here at JD Legend, we care about you.
Everybody say hi to Jay.